You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond.
Hello and welcome to episode 36 of James Bond Radio in what can only be described as possibly the most exciting week for Bond fandom there has ever been in the history of the world. I know it is for me. I don't know about you, Chris. How do you feel about that statement?
Well, I've run out of tissues. I had a full packet of tissues in my room at the start of the week.
Because you've been crying, isn't it? That's why.
Well, it's definitely some sort of body release. But no, it was tears. It was tears. Tears of joy. What a week. It's been amazing. Absolutely
Hasn't it?
Amazing.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Now, how amazing is that quote?
Well, I agree exactly with what you said. I heard your little solo review that you did, which was superb, by the way. Very well
Thank you
done.
very much.
But I totally agree. I think that line is going to be the line of the film. They've obviously released it now so people know about it, but I mean, it's such a clever line. I think it's brilliant. Obviously, we're going to talk about the trailer in a little bit, but apart from the fact that you almost get a bit of a C-bomb in there, it's a damn good line.
Yeah, no, like you say, we'll talk about the trailer at length. Might even eclipse the length of our Man with the Golden Gun review today because it's so exciting. But hey,
it's good.
But we'll talk about that in a little while. But in other news, how have you been this week?
I've been all right. Yeah, well, actually, I've had a bit of cramp in my leg. I went for a run and it seized up.
Oh, mate.
So I didn't feel very General Craig-like as I was hobbling back. But,
so I suppose we're getting to that age now, aren't we, where things like that are going to start to happen, and you know we'll be waking up 3 or 4 times during the night for a wee, things like that as we age, and hopefully it'll be gracefully. But you know.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I'm kind of hoping that I'll wake up like Roger Moore does at the Man with the Golden Gun, where he's like heaven, definitely heaven, and and that's kind of what I want. It's not happening yet.
Good stuff. Well, as I mentioned in my little solo podcast, Sunday this week is going to be an exciting night because it's my birthday and it's your mum's birthday as well.
It is indeed,
and it's Cubby Broccoli's birthday. Yeah, shout out to Chris's mum, happy birthday. And we've got a little mini JBR meetup where we're gonna. There's I don't know how many, but we're gonna go watch golfing together, grab a few beers, and talk some Bond, which is gonna be good. I
could bring my mum along if you want,
dude. You should just do it, man. You should just do
Mum,
it.
this is where we're going.
She probably remembers Goldfinger when it came out the first time, so
I think she probably does.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, something's happened I've noticed today on my Instagram and Facebook, which is, I've got to be honest, I'm not a particularly jealous person. You know, I'm happy for people when they have successes and stuff, but never has the green-eyed monster come out of me more than this week.
Right.
Now, the fella from JamesBondBrazil.com, Marcus Kontz, I hope I pronounced that correctly, he posted this photo on Instagram, and I immediately had a little shit my pants moment. Check this out.
Let's have a look.
Now...
Is that him alongside a certain Mr. Mendes?
It certainly is. For those of you who are listening and not looking on YouTube, there he is during the Day of the Dead scenes, I imagine, with Sam Mendes. And then there's another one he's got with Gary Powell, Mr. Stuntman.
Nice.
And then
very nice.
Here he is again, hanging out with what can only be the extras from the Day of the Dead scene, all painted up.
That must have been so much fun. How did he get there then?
Well... there's his little press pass, Spectre press pass.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it's all about. Is getting the press pass.
It is indeed. So good on you, man. I can't. That's the dream right there, isn't it? Being on set for a Bond movie.
Yeah, I think all you have to do though is just get one of those press things. You know, do one in your computer, print it out, laminate it, get a lanyard around your neck.
Yeah,
you know, Bob's your uncle.
Or I think maybe just sort of sit on Eon House's doorstep for a while and just keep asking everybody who goes through the front door, and then hopefully maybe that could work. I don't know.
We could take the Roger Moore route from Octopussy and just dress up like a Day of the Dead person and just rock on in there.
Oh, that would be the idea, wouldn't it? Going undercover, that's the ultimate right there.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, that's a good idea. Cool. So I feel our two Villains of Bond episodes went down very well. Everybody seemed to be very happy chatting about those, and I must admit I had a lot of fun doing those as well. They were good fun episodes.
They were great. Yeah, it was really difficult to try and sort of put them into. I know we had our little tier system going, and since then I've sort of tried to scale it down to I think I've put it down to like 7 tiers or 6 or 7 tiers with like a maximum of 4 in each one, which is so difficult to do.
Yeah.
So I've done mine. I know I've passed it on to you, and I know you're gonna give yours a go, and then we'll sort of post it on the Facebook page and the website and stuff like that.
Absolutely. A lot of the listeners were posting their kind of rating systems and all that kind of stuff, and they all varied massively, which is always interesting, isn't it? Because it's for me, when I look at my taste, and I know your taste and my taste are very, very similar. I just feel like that's kind of how it is, you know, like Donald Pleasance is the best Blofeld, for example. Maybe that'll change soon enough. But so with that said, but then you get other people who are like, no, I don't really like Donald at all. I'm all about Telly Savalas. Nobody said Charles Gray was the best one, though, interestingly enough.
I think some people I think some people put him above the other two.
Did they? Oh, interesting. I didn't see those, but there we go. Now, something I thought that was interesting is the AFI, which stands for the American Film Institute, released an article, I suppose, on their top 100 movie villains of all time. And we mentioned that in the Bomb Facts, didn't we? That Goldfinger came in at number 49. Sorry, it was the top 50, not the top 100.
49, surely he should have been higher than that.
Well, yes. Now, I'm taking issue with this list, American Film Institute. So Goldfinger sneaks in at number 49, right? Now, let me give you some examples of who ranks above Goldfinger. The next step up from that, number 48, is Verbal Kint.
But he's brilliant.
Which, if you don't know, is Kevin Spacey in The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic.
But, right, who knows the name Verbal Kint off the top of their head unless they're like a film fan? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you say Auric
Kaiser
Goldfinger, well, there you go. But like, if you say Auric Goldfinger, everyone on the planet knows who that is. Verbal Kint, you wouldn't know. Hans Gruber.
Die Hard.
Yeah, that's an all right one.
I'm liking these. These are all right so far.
Okay, how about this one? Baby Jane Hudson.
What?
Yeah, Baby Jane Hudson from a movie called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and it was played by Betty Davis.
Right. Okay.
Right. So there we go. This is where things are falling apart. We've got Tom Powers from The Public Enemy. Don't know who that is. And this dude is ranked above Goldfinger. We've got Freddy Krueger. That's fair enough. I'll give you that. I still wouldn't rank him above Goldfinger, but I can understand the thinking there. We've got Frank Booth from Blue Velvet. No way is he better than Goldfinger, or worse, as the case may be. We've got Count Dracula. Okay, I'll give you that. You know, he's a pretty, you know, solid villain. And then sort of when we get to the top, we've got things like Man from Bambi. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. Man from Bambi being better than Auric Goldfinger. How do you feel about that statement?
Well, it's just not right, is it?
And then next up, at position 18, we've got the shark from Jaws.
That is a good baddie, but
it's not. It's not Goldfinger levels, man.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
And then as let me just give some examples of who they've got in the top. So the top 5 are Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We've got The Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. In number 3, I thought this would be number 1. We've got Darth Vader from The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, that's not even
from The Empire Strikes Back. Why have they written that? Star Wars, obviously. That's weird. You've got Norman Bates from Psycho in number 2, and then number 1 is Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs.
He's nowhere near as good as Darth Vader or Goldfinger, for that matter.
Like for me, Goldfinger has to be a top 10 villain. Like, and for him to be the only Bond villain in that list, Bond invented villains, as far as I'm concerned. So. What are they talking about, American Film Institute?
I don't know.
Well, anyway,
but there we are. Anyway.
Well, I've got that off my chest. We can carry on now. So before we chat any about other stuff, make sure you come and like us on Facebook. The community is growing every day, and everyone's posting great stuff and amazing conversation happening over there. So make sure you come and like us. Just put James Bond Radio into the search. Come and follow us on Twitter, which is @JamesBondRadio. And we've had this week with the release of the teaser trailer, we've had a huge amount of chit chat on the actual JBR website, which is jamesbondradio.com. In the comments pages, we did one of those kind of live chats after the teaser trailer was released, and that had over like 300 odd comments. And then again, when I released my little solo kind of teaser breakdown podcast, there's a good sort of 30, 40 comments going on that page. So come and join in the conversation on there because it's good fun. And you can hear everybody. There's one guy, I think it was let me just check, I think it was Scott Cranridge, who posted his own kind of breakdown breakdown of it in the comments section and all that kind of stuff. So it's all good. And then last but not least, come and subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a lovely glowing review, preferably 5 stars if you feel we deserve it. And because that helps us rank really high. I smile because there's going to be something else about that shortly, which we'll talk about. But there we go. Now we had a couple of messages this week where people were asking how they can basically spread the good word of JBR.
That's nice,
and which is
nice
lovely. And the way you can do that basically is tricky, because what happens usually is people, like I say, best thing to do is go to where James Bond fan hangs out. So if you're, any Bond fan site that's got a forum and stuff, you can kind of but don't be sort of crazy with it. Don't just sort of make an account, log in and go check out James Bond Radio and then leave, because that just annoys everybody. So the best way to do it, in our opinion, is sort of just, make an account there. If you want to kind of get into, if you see some cool Bond related conversations and you think one of our podcasts would be applicable, just post a little link, start a little conversation about JBR or something. That's always helpful, but don't go overboard. Don't sort of spam places and all that kind of stuff, because that's just going to piss everybody off and they'll all hate us rather than want to listen to us. So that's how you can help. But it's very gracious of you for asking. That's really nice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Great
indeed.
stuff.
So what else we got going on this week, Chris?
Okay, so we've just had a little bit of news in about an interview that we had with Babs and Mickey G talking about Spectre. Now this, it's only just come in. I think someone posted it on the JBR Facebook page, and I know Jack Lugo posted it up as well. It's about a 15-minute interview, and there's just one or two things which I thought I'd mention from it, which I thought were quite interesting. So first off, the draft of the script of Spectre, the very first draft, was written over 2.5 years ago. So that's how long this script has been being worked on. So that's a long time ago, isn't it? If you
so 2.5 years ago. So we're in March of 2015. So that's sort of basically the tail end of 2012, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's not long after.
It's like immediately after Skyfall they got started.
There was a question about Moneypenny, and Babs said that you can't keep this Moneypenny behind a desk. So we know she's going to be out in the field. She will, I'm sure she'll be behind the desk in one scene maybe, but it's definitely not going to be like the old school Moneypenny where it's one scene behind the desk and that's it. This one is definitely a bigger part of the story, and she'll be out and about. They apparently they're not going to let us know about the theme song for a long time. That's not going to come out until a lot closer to the release date, which is a bit of a shame, but I guess we were kind of expecting that. They mentioned a bit about the script, and someone asked, what part did Logan write? What part did Purvis and Wade write? And apparently, because there's so much crossover between them, they've all kind of overlapped with each other, and you're never going to know, oh, so-and-so did the pre-title, so-and-so did this. Basically, they're all working together. They wouldn't answer if there was a cat in the movie, which I thought was quite funny.
That's a good sneaky question. I like that.
It was a good sneaky question. And also, if Quantum and Spectre were related in any way, they didn't want to mention that. But something that they did mention, which I thought was great, was that basically they said, so how long is Daniel contracted for? And both of them actually were like, well, he's basically got an open-ended contract, so he can stay as long as he wants, really. So
that's really nice.
We could see like a 58-year-old Danny boy.
Well, do you know what? I think that's man, with how things are now, where we've got Spectre in this whole beginning of this classic storyline, they can't just be one and done with it. It can't be just this one movie. This storyline has to follow over into Bond 25 at least. Yeah, I feel definitely. Like there should be a trilogy. There should be 3 Blofeld movies, like there were 3 Blofeld books.
Yeah,
that's the ideal thing. So I feel like it's going to end up like it was with Roger, in the sense that every single time it will be like, oh no, this will be my last one, and then they'll just give him a bit more money until he keeps coming back in, until he hits that cutoff point. But it's going to be interesting to see. I feel like in my waters, I feel like he should do Bond 26 and then probably bow out after that. So 2 more after Spectre.
Two more, yeah. That's a good length of time then, isn't it?
Yeah.
He would have done and all his films, like you mentioned before, would be linked then, which is nice.
Yeah, that will be nice. And I feel like, like we said, he seems to look in better shape now than he did in Skyfall. So I think, like we said, maybe that was just down to that gnarly haircut he had in Skyfall.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, so exciting. It's good.
Lots to look forward to, definitely.
Yeah, completely. Now they also mentioned at the end of the interview, like I say, if you go to Facebook, you can hear the full thing, the full 50 minutes. Somebody asked them about Idris Elba, and they said they reckon he'd make a good Bond.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Now, Idris and Roger have been in the news again this week, haven't they? There's basically been an interview, I think it was with a French magazine, where they asked Roger about, who could potentially play Bond and stuff. And essentially what they've done is they've twisted his words and tried to make it into something racist, like he was being nasty against Idris Elba.
Why do people do that? I don't understand why people do that. Well, obviously they do it. Yeah, of course it is. It's just, but it's just silly, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nonsense.
It's nonsense. There's nothing racist about Roger Moore. If you read his Live and Let Die diary, I mean, Jesus Christ, if there was an opportunity to be racist, it would be then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And there's just not a drip of it in the man. So
no, of course he's not.
Whoever wrote that article, you're a dickhead, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't mess with our Roger. But with that said, it's interesting, right? This whole Idris Elba debate keeps kind of coming back, doesn't it? It's like it doesn't seem to want to go away. And like I said, I think he could do it well, man. I really do. And I think I was thinking earlier on about the whole thing, and I understand why people would say no to him and be like, no, that's not right. Okay, for whatever reason. And I don't think that's a racist thing at all. I think it's fair enough. For example, if they recast Indiana Jones with a black dude or an Asian dude, it would be like, well, that's a bit weird because Indiana Jones, doesn't look like that or whatever. And I can understand the school of thought, but my school of thought with Idris is, he's a special case in the sense that he's got that Bond charm and charisma by the bucket load. And if you have you watched Luther yet?
I still haven't.
Oh man, if you watch it, you'll see it. Like, just watch an episode of Luther and you'll be like, man, that's it. And that was like, as soon as I watched that was like one of the first things I said. I was like, that dude could play Bond. And it's not like he would burst onto screen and be like, ow, my name's Bond. Do you know what I mean? That's not how he would do it. It would be...
Depends on who was directing.
It's true. Like,
Lee Temahore comes back.
That's true. It's not going to be like that. He would be an Englishman to the bone. The only difference would be the way he looks, But again, I don't think realistically they would ever do it because, let's face it, Daniel had blonde hair and look at that uproar that was caused by that.
But I don't think I think the factor is going to be the age, because without a doubt, Danny Boy is going to do 24, he's going to do 25. I agree with you. I think he will probably do 26 as well. We're looking at least another 4 or 5 years, maybe. Idris will be far too old then anyway. But
that's true.
I know this isn't being a cop out, but why could he not play like an awesome villain?
That's true. I think he would be an almost like a Trevelyan type character, like a fellow 00 who would be like a real mean sort of like equal match for Bond. I think that would be rad. I'd like to see that. That would be cool.
You get some good fights and action scenes going.
Yeah, you would definitely.
That'd be cool.
But there we go. In other news, actually, this week is Anthony Horowitz tweeted that he'd submitted his final version of his new Bond book off to the publishers with all corrections, and he said there's going to be more news in May, so not long about that. I think it comes out in September, if I'm right.
Do you think they'd let the title out that soon?
Maybe, I don't know, or at least a little tease, I suppose. I can't really remember the timeline of the previous book,
Shoot to Kill,
and Solo and all those kinds of books. I don't know how far in advance they do it, but that's exciting. So that'll be nice. Cool. And I suppose before we roll the theme tune, we created some controversy this week, didn't we, Chris?
Well, unintentionally, but yes, we did.
We did. Basically, what happened was I put out on Facebook that I'm basically clearing out and getting rid of loads of stuff. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to give away my Charlie Higson series of books. So I've got like all the paperbacks and the Danger Society book and the Silver Fin graphic novel. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to pass the love on. I'm just going to.
So you're trying to do a good deed, aren't you?
I'm trying to do a good deed, Chris, is what I'm trying to do. So I posted out saying, basically, if you want to be in with a chance of winning these books, leave us a lovely 5-star review on iTunes. I'll pick one at random, and whoever wins, and I'll send you the books. Yeah. Well, Chris, we got a backlash of people. Now, what makes me laugh about this is one of the tweets said, "This is one of the most dodgy things I've ever seen," which makes me think, well, if that's the case, then you live quite a good life, really. I mean, let's face it.
This is the worst.
It's a competition for children's books, for crying out loud. And then we had a couple of dudes like posting on the Facebook and on the comments page going, change this immediately, otherwise I'm contacting Apple. Which was just like, oh, all right, come on, like whatever. And so we had a bit of controversy, but at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is give away all I'm trying to do is try and give away some children's books. I mean, for crying out loud, But there we go, bit of controversy.
We did amend the description slightly, didn't we? So
So really, I suppose when it all boils down to it, we would just like to say we're very sorry and shut up, for crying out loud. Anyway, moving on. Let's roll the theme tune.
Let's do it.
Who are you?
My name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond. James Bond. Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy.
As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Okay, so there we go. So I guess we're going to kick things off with some speculation and some chit chat about the trailer in full. As always, if you want to skip all this stuff, what we'd like you to do is skip forward to
30 minutes and 21 seconds.
There it is. So if you're still listening, you're probably going to be spoiled on some level. And there's your warning. So there we go. So I suppose to kick things off, shall we just play that trailer?
You know what? I think we should. Even if people are only listening, the music and the dialogue is enough to send shivers. So I think we should do it.
Let's do it. Okay, let's play that trailer right now.
Forensics finally released this.
What is it?
Personal effects they recovered from Skyfall. You've got a secret. Something you can't tell anyone. Because you don't trust anyone.
I always knew death would wear a familiar face. But not yours.
I was at a meeting recently and your name came up.
I'm flattered London is still talking about me.
It wasn't MI6.
You are a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond.
Welcome, James. It's been a long time. And finally, here we are.
Okay, do you know what excites me even more about that? The more I listen to that line, right? The way he says that, welcome, James, it's been a long time, and finally, here we are. Which, do you know what that makes me feel like? That Blofeld's been there, puppet strings, all the way along the whole Bond journey so far, for Daniel's reign, obviously, and Bond hasn't had a clue, and Blofeld always know he's going to catch up to him at some point, and finally, here we are. Chris, I'm so excited. I can't contain myself. I really can't. I don't know how to live my life for the next few months until this film comes out. I don't know how to do it.
We'll just have to watch the trailer on repeat between now and October, pretty much, I think. But it's good. It's good. It's almost like you get so excited. You're using so much energy just watching that trailer because your body's on overdrive. But no, it's good.
Crazy,
it's good.
isn't it? There we go. So what have we got then? So we got some Spectre news, haven't we, this week?
We have some speculation. Indeed, we do. So we had another clapperboard still released. So first one we had was the Royal Dalton Dog. Then we had what was the last one we had? The second one we had.
We had the one with all the ice and snow in the background.
That's right, yeah. And basically this one is one with a Day of the Dead sort of massive skeleton model behind, which I thought looked awesome.
Does look awesome.
In the interview with Babs and Mickey G, they said that Sam Mendes had a vision for this festival that he wanted to create. Obviously, Live and Let Die vibes running through it and stuff. But no, it looks amazing. So I think all these little stills that they're putting out, again, hitting the right notes and super exciting. In regards to the filming, obviously, as everyone knows, they're out in Mexico now, shooting the pre-title sequence, which obviously involves the Day of the Dead festival. Now, there's been a lot of photos and a little bit of footage showing Bond hopping over balconies and running up and down rooftops, which is a bit similar to Quantum when he's doing the rooftops in Siena, but it's all looking good.
He likes a pre-title foot chase, does Daniel, doesn't he?
He does indeed. Yeah, definitely. Now, we know they shot scenes in the Grand Hotel de la Cruz de Mexico.
Excellent pronunciation. Yeah, I'm impressed with that.
and that was with Stephanie Sigmund, the Mexican actress who is playing Estrella. Now, here's some information which I didn't previously know. Okay. So, also, within this pre-title sequence, there is a character called Marco Sciarra, who is played by Alessandro Cremona.
Okay,
now,
let's just hear that again. Marco Sciarra.
Indeed.
Oh,
okay. Now,
the plot
this guy...
thickens, Chris.
It does indeed. So this guy is, I suppose, the antagonist of the pre-title sequence. So there's a big chase with him and Bond. We know that. We don't quite know what it's about yet, but they obviously have a face-off during the festival. And there's a bit where Bond and this Marco Sciarra are fighting on a helicopter, which looks pretty awesome as well. But obviously, straight away, Sciarra, everyone's thinking, hang on, hello, Lucia, and everything. Now, straight away, that will tell you that pretty much Marco's not going to be around too much longer after the pre-titles, I don't think. And
maybe we've just found out who the funeral is.
Exactly. There we go. So I think it's pretty much a safe bet. Lucia's standing in front of the coffin, isn't she?
Yeah.
So I know before we thought, oh, could it be M, the old M or whoever? But no, I think it's a safe bet. It's going to be this Marco Sciarra's funeral. Lucia's standing in front of him. And I think that's going to make her go a bit crazy and want to basically kill Bond like a mad assassin.
Do you know what this is like? This reminds me of Thunderball, obviously with Domino and her brother, but this time Bond is responsible for her brother's death. So there's like a different relationship, sort of dynamic there. That's
it could
intriguing.
be a brother, it could be a brother, it could be a husband or whoever. But I think it's definitely going to play that way.
Yeah,
and I think she's going to be out for Bond's blood, basically, which is pretty cool. There's another thing that was mentioned, which hopefully we'll both quite like. In regards to the pre-titles, the rather than using CGI to replace to composite Bond's face onto a stuntman's body, which is what they did in Skyfall, which was quite noticeable in Skyfall on the bike chase across the rooftop of the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul.
Yeah.
They've now gone back to the old-fashioned approach of using a prosthetic mask, but it will look a lot better, I think.
I've seen those shots. So basically, like you said, on the Grand Bazaar bike chase, you could see it wasn't Daniel's face, and it was like a computer mapped image of Daniel's face on top of it. You could tell it was CGI. And I've seen the image of that, and it kind of looks, it looks pretty creepy, obviously, with a rubber mask, but in the scene where he's kind of fighting from a distance, you don't notice it at all.
No, not at all.
And that to me is a very good sign, because as we all know, the CGI is something we're not a big fan of, and if they're going for old school effects this time around, I couldn't be happy with that decision. Mendes,
again, it's another tick in the box, isn't it? I think we should invite him around for tea and crumpets or something.
You can even have Komodo dragons in this one if you want, as long as you do all the other stuff as good as you think you are.
So that's kind of the filming news. Obviously, like we mentioned, they've only got Morocco to go next, and then London and stuff. So not too much more. The other news is that Spectre is going to be released on IMAX around the country, which will be good. So I've only seen a few films in IMAX, but I if there's a chance to see Spectre in IMAX, I'll definitely give it a go. Are you an IMAX man?
I've only ever seen one movie in IMAX, which was the last of the Batman films. What was that called? Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah, that's the one,
I saw that. It was interesting. Like, I didn't really even know what IMAX really was until I saw it. But I don't know. It didn't blow me away. I was like, all right, that's IMAX. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I think certain films make use of it more than others. I think if you watch Spectre in it obviously it wouldn't be bad. It'd be good, but I think if you're just watching a normal cinema, it'll be equally as good, probably.
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
I'd tell you what, I'm happy they're just not releasing it in 3D, because that's always rubbish in my book.
Well, yeah. maybe Bond 25. Who knows? So that's about it, really, for speculation. I think the teaser's basically taken all the speculation, isn't it? So that's what
here we are. We've spoken for the best part of an hour on the Spectre teaser, almost exclusively, which is to be expected, I suppose. So there we go. So it's like I've said about a million times. It's an exciting time to be a Bond fan, possibly the most exciting time ever to be a Bond fan, I think. To see all this kind of Spectre stuff coming back, it's going to be great, and with the months that pass, it's going to be even more exciting, I think.
Well, we're just going to get more little nuggets of stuff, and it's just going to get better and better, isn't it?
There
basically,
you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on to some listener messages. We had a voicemail from JBR listener Alex Robson, who told us a little bit about a little Bondian thing he kind of did, which makes me laugh. So let's have a listen to what he did, and then we'll have a chat.
Hey guys, Alex Robson here. Can't tell you how much of a huge fan I am of the podcast. I listen to it on a daily basis going to work. I was so excited when I saw that Spectre teaser trailer the other day. I wore my Sunspell blue polo and Levi's white jeans to hone my excitement. Too bad that I actually shit all over them though when I saw that trailer, so probably not a good idea. Wanted to give you a little cool James Bond moment in my life the other day, where I was at work and a co-worker didn't think I was up to the challenge. So I said, "You're an idiot." And she said, "I'm sorry?" I said, "You're a bloody idiot. Look into my eyes. You know I can do this." So needless to say, I got it done, and I definitely had a little James Bond moment in my life. I recently just acquired a 4K Ultra HD television, which has a huge name and an even bigger price. But I can't tell you how amazing James Bond on Blu-ray looks. I'm noticing all sorts of little things. For instance, in Thunderball, when Connery's running through the road in the parade trying to escape, and there's a dog in the middle of the parade with his leg tilted, and he's having a wee. Would never have seen that until I saw it on Blu-ray. So as I go on, I'll update you on all sorts of little things I noticed that you would never notice on normal quality. All right, cheers for now. Bye.
So there we go. Bond inspiring people to abuse their workmates. Great.
And it's a good quote as well. We could have used that for the quote round.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Still can.
Like it. Yeah, completely.
Nice one, Alex. I hope he didn't get any abuse back. But there we go.
Well, with dominating force like that, I'm sure she just sat there completely dumbfounded. But there we go. Good on you, Alex. Nice to hear from you. And we got a message, didn't we, from Simon Godwin, who revealed that The November Man is out on UK Netflix now. So that's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've been wanting to see that for a while.
About that.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get on that. In fact, once we do, I think we should do a little review of it as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's good to see Pierce back in action. So it'll be nice to see that. And in other messages, somebody asked a couple of episodes ago about what kind of music they thought Bond would listen to. And it was an intriguing question. Like I said, I don't think you would be much of a music fan. But we had a couple of people write in, didn't we? We had a message from Steve Batchelor, didn't we?
Yeah, so Steve came back. He basically, I think he went through some of the novels and the films to see what sort of music stuff he could pick up. He mentioned that in The Man with the Golden Gun novel, which is coincidence, obviously we're reviewing the film later, Bond is in the car with Scaramanga and has an opportunity to actually kill him there. But he didn't kill him, partly because it didn't feel right or sporting, as being British.
He doesn't like cold blood killing, does he?
No,
he does it when he has to, but he doesn't like it.
Yeah, but also partly due to enjoying the Calypso tune After You've Gone, which was playing on the sound system. So he was obviously too chilled listening to this music to kill someone, which was quite an interesting.
He likes a bit of Calypso.
He does, yeah. And then in Live and Let Die, Bond is listening to some avant-garde jazz. This is the film.
The Living Daylights, you mean?
The Living Daylights, sorry, I beg your pardon, yeah. When he's in the Aston with Cara.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I don't know if he was listening to it for fun or the fact that he turned it on and that was on and then he's trying to get the police band with, so I'm not sure. But I think if Bond did listen to anything, like we mentioned before, I think it would be some sort of jazz type thing I think he'd probably like. also in that film, when Cara was playing Borodin's String Quartet Number 2 in D, he said that was exquisite. So he's got a bit of
he obviously
partial to the old
knows his
classic.
classical. Yeah.
He does indeed. Now, there were some stills from the footage of Skyfall, which was showing Danny Boy with some earphones doing some jogging, but as Bond and not just as Daniel. So
there's that shot, isn't it? Like long in. I think he's in. Is it Buckingham Palace in the distance or somewhere?
I think it is
something like something in the background,
like
and he's like jogging like Rocky with his hoodie on and stuff. Obviously, they didn't use that in the final film, but that was in the trailer, wasn't it? So so jogging with headphones. So what would
maybe
Bond have on his
iPod?
Maybe Foo Fighters. Maybe I don't know, some Snoop Dogg or something. I don't know. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. But JBR listener Ron Turford also wrote it in on the same topic, and he said there is an answer to this question in Fleming's novels. In Casino Royale, Fleming states that one of Bond's favourite songs is "La Vie en Rose" by Edith Piaf, which is, I believe, that's the song in.
Inception.
Oh, Inception. That's the one.
It is indeed.
It is that one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's Nolan again showing his Bond knowledge, and he's a massive Bond fan, Nolan, and that's why he used that song. It's pretty cool.
And he says the same song is referenced again in Diamonds Are Forever, but now Bond finds the song too painful to listen to as it brings back bad memories. It was on the strength of these references that I purchased an Edith Piaf Greatest Hits album years ago. There's some great stuff on it. So I wonder if this kind of French 40s cabaret is something that Bond will be into. So there we go.
That's a good response.
Interesting, It's good to see everybody delving into the original holy texts and finding these kind of little nuggets out. So maybe Bond is a bit of a music fan.
Well, you always got to go back to Fleming, haven't you? That's where it all starts.
That's the root cause. Speaking of that, like I think going back to the Spectre thing very briefly.
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about that as much as you want.
Very briefly, I apologise. And this won't be a spoiler thing, so don't worry if you skip that section. I wonder how much Fleming we're going to get in this movie, right? Because if the whole Oberhauser angle is happening, I wonder whether we're actually going to get scenes from the original Fleming Oberhauser story. Yeah, that's an interesting thought, isn't it? Yeah,
maybe. I think there'll be some that will be at least alluded to. I think
so. That would be interesting. I would like to see some Fleming scenes. And again, that wasn't a spoiler because that's just speculation, and we all know Oberhauser's in the movie. So do that what you will. Don't shout at me, please. Cool. So what's been happening on the James Bond Radio website?
Okay, so our Station C news reporter Linda Zhu, the latest one that she's information that she's brought up. It's quite a few good stuff. Now Roger Moore, he's been made a judge on the Young Lions Health Award panel. Now this is to help promote young people. I think get sort of in the workplace and stuff like that. And he does lots of stuff for kids around the world, UNICEF and everything. So. It's just another string to his bow of niceness, really. Yeah,
good old Roger. It's lovely. When I, which we'll talk about in a little while, obviously, when I was watching the Roger's commentary for The Man with the Golden Gun for our review, he says at several points how he felt bad at the time, like the scene with the kid on the boat that he pushes over and all that kind of stuff, and that he was like at the top of the world, essentially playing James Bond and earning all this money, and there was all this like poverty around him, and he felt dreadfully guilty looking back on those days. And it's lovely. I think with Rog, it's lovely to see how much he kind of like gives back, as cheesy as that sounds. But like he's always talking about UNICEF. Like the last third of his book is just talking about UNICEF, and it definitely feels like something he's passionate about. So good on you, Rog. We salute you.
Good on you, Rog. We do indeed, as always. So there was also a bit of news about Gemma Arterton, who revealed her choice for Bond. Again, another mention for Idris. And she also mentioned who she thought would make a good theme song artist, which is someone that we mentioned before, which is Goldfrapp. You thought Goldfrapp would make a good.
Yeah, do you know what? Every time I see, I think they played Glastonbury last year or a year before, or some festival, and I caught it on TV, and I was like, man, if there was somebody who was built to make a Bond theme, it's Goldfrapp. It's just that vibe that they have, or she has, is just like bang on the money for it. But again, I don't know whether they're sort of big enough in today's world to sort of, because Adele's like literally the biggest star ever at the time of Skyfall. So I don't know whether they're sort of big enough for what they're looking for at the moment. So I don't know. I'd love to see
maybe in the future, though. Maybe in the future. Who knows?
That's true.
There was also a poster and the trailer of the latest Pierce Brosnan film called No Escape with Owen Wilson, which I'll have to keep a look at. I'm not sure when that's due out, but it's another sort of actiony sort of. It looks.
I watched the trailer for that. It's basically Owen Wilson goes to Asia, and then all of a sudden, like some kind of civil war breaks out. So he's on the run with his family. And Pierce is like, helps him out in some way. I think he might be like an ex-SAS type guy or something who's got training, and he kind of helps them out.
He's got skills.
He's got skills, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, it looks good, looks fun.
Excellent. And then just rounding off Linda's news, there were variations of Danny Boy's Spectre poster pose. Now, these are quite funny. There was a few with him with long hair and glasses and
the comedy variations.
Exactly. Yeah. I think so. That was quite nice. Yeah. So there's a nice bit of news from Linda there.
There we go. So if you haven't already, head over to jamesbondradio.com and check out the latest This Week in James Bond, which is Linda's thing every week with the news roundup. If you want to see those images and read some more Bond news, lovely stuff. So before we crack on with the film review, it's time for some Bond trivia, isn't it, Chris?
It is indeed Bond trivia. So I think you should go first this week because I think I went first last time.
Okay, I've got a good one for you. My question is, Chris Wright, can you name all the components of the Golden Gun?
Oh, that is a good question.
It's surprisingly tough, actually. But thinking about it, for you used to have a Golden Gun, so you probably know this.
So if I get it wrong, then I'm screwed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But no, there might be something I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head. But no, that's a great question. A great question.
Thank
and
you
probably
very much.
one of the best bits about that film.
Absolutely.
It is indeed. So my trivia question, again, along the theme of the man with the golden gun. Now, my question is, Mr. Tom Sears, how many bullets does Bond fire in his final showdown with Scaramanga?
Oh, that is a good question.
Have you got any ideas?
That is a good question. And I know it's at least 2. And I think I might get this actually. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get my brain in gear throughout this episode.
Nice one.
So as usual,
good questions there.
They are 2 good questions. We will reveal the answers to those towards the end of this episode. So make sure you stay tuned to find out the answers to those intriguing little questions. So let's crack on with some Man with the Golden Gun.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Pre-movie thoughts. What were your thoughts before watching it?
So my pre-movie thoughts are, this one gets a lot of bad rap. Everyone says it's one of Roger's weaker movies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For me, I've never really felt like that. I mean, I obviously know there are some kind of odd things that happen that you've commented before about kind of perhaps a bit of lazy script writing here and there.
Yeah.
But I think it being considered one of Roger's weakest is totally undeserved. I think there's a lot going for this movie. And that's how I felt. Obviously, it's fresh in my mind because I went to James Bond Island. I've seen it recently on the big screen, a screening a month back.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm into it. How about you?
Well, it's funny you say that because when I was watching it, I couldn't help but think that, Tom's been there, Tom's been there, Tom's been there.
Well, that's the funny thing is every scene of that, every shot of that scene, I was like picturing what it looks like now compared to how it is in the movie.
I've got to go out there. I'll go out there at some point, definitely. So my pre-movie watch was pretty much what you mentioned. Like I had, at times it's been my worst Roger film. I think when we very first went through sort of films, when we started the podcast, it probably was my worst Roger film back then. I did, there are certain things which I know that I wasn't sure about, but I really tried to go into this with fresh eyes, just to sort of, remove all sort of thoughts about the film. And just go with it with open eyes, and I'll let you know what I thought.
All right, sounds good. So let's kick things off then with the pre-titles.
Yeah.
So the gun barrel, what are your thoughts?
Well, the gun barrel, so he's got the same sort of gun barrel shot as he did with Live and Let Die. And it's strange that they changed that from Spy onwards. I think if you look at it, when he does the shot, the actual shot doesn't go straight. So maybe that's why they changed it afterwards. But I think the gun barrel music was actually a bit more generic than some of the previous ones, because we had Live and Let Die, which is quite
Yeah.
Obviously Diamonds had a little thing going with it. Majesty's had something going for it. I think Thunderball Goldfinger was quite sort of generic, but for the previous three Bonds or so, we had sort of slight variations.
They had their own individual flavour, whereas I suppose this is like going back to basics, isn't it? I suppose.
Yes, it is. Yeah, which it's not a bad thing. It's just that's what it is, and that's what hit me. But yeah, no, gun barrel's cool. What do you think of the actual pre-title scene then?
Well, it made me realise how funny it is, in the sense that I've racked my brain, and I think I'm right in saying this is the last time we had a pre-title sequence that doesn't have Bond in it.
It is indeed.
Every single one since then has been like a little mini adventure for Bond to get up to, and that's really brave, isn't it? To have a Bond movie start with a group of characters nobody's ever seen before, and that whole sequence, which I thought was interesting. Like that was the last time it happened, 1974.
But I think it's only happened twice, hasn't it? With Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die, Man with Gone Gun.
You could potentially say From Russia with Love if you wanted to be technical.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much Live and Let Die and Man with Gone Gun, I'd say the only two. Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting. I don't think you'd get away with that nowadays, do you? Or maybe if you had like a Spectre one, where similar to the teaser where it was, wow, what's coming next? Yeah. Perhaps, but
I can't see that ever happening again. I can't imagine a pre-title sequence that doesn't have Bond in it. It's funny, isn't it, to see that? But I suppose like immediately you're on the beach with Miss Anders. You've got Nick Nack, who apparently, as I've learned throughout this film, that he was meant to be like a mini Odd Job. They like basically modelled him as a mini Odd Job, and Scaramanga with his three nipples. And I feel like Scaramanga, Christopher Lee is such a striking figure, isn't he? Such a like a commanding presence, like that big booming voice, and just the whole image of the dude immediately makes you think like this is like this dude is a badass. I think that's a great introduction to him. What do you think?
I loved it, and I love the fact that it's so sort of opulent and sort of he's got his own island. It just shows you, okay, this guy knows how to live. He's got a sort of his lady there waiting for him when he gets out of the water to towel him down. He's got his little manservant to bring him Tabasco to go with his Guinness, and he's just going. It's a great setup. I think the location wise, it's amazing. Straight away, you've seen this guy, and you're like, okay, so what's happening now? And the third nipple, just like, I think that's a great little touch.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, and then obviously we cut to kind of the other side of the little island, and you see Rodney turn up. I like the way that you see the boat sort of rowing away again, and he's there on the beach.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, because I don't know if his character in Diamonds is ever referred to by name, but do you think the character of Rodney in this film is the same as the character in Diamonds Are Forever?
It could be, couldn't it? I mean, it could be a little throwback. I mean, in tradition, they would use the same actor for different roles, so maybe not. Yeah. But I mean, he's a gangster, and he
sounds the same.
It's like it's not like he's turning up dressed like J.W. Pepper. He is like the same essentially. So maybe I think that would be a nice little touch. Yeah.
Yeah. Make of it what you will, sort of thing.
Yeah, completely.
But and then obviously Nick Nack sees him and he sort of invites him inside. Hey. And then he gets like the money. You get the rest. How can you do a Nick Nack quote?
You get the rest later.
Yeah, that's so good. That was so much better than what mine was about to be, and I had to stop myself.
Let's just hear yours for the sake of it. Come on.
I don't know if I can.
He's just kicked his laptop over. He's so excited.
I have. Sorry. Yeah. No, I can't do it. I'll have to do it later. Sorry. You get there. I can't do it. Sorry. I'll save that. But yeah, and then he brings him inside the sort of main living area almost within this funhouse. You imagine that's kind of like the point of it.
I was very disappointed that actually isn't there on the island that was actually built in Pinewood. So I was looking for the front door and it's not actually there. I was very, very disappointed.
Did you complain or something? I would have done.
I did. I was looking around for somebody to complain to, but there wasn't anybody really.
No one was listening to you. No. Shame. So straight away we've got this weird setup. Okay, so we've got this guy who it looks like he owns an island, or at least lives on an island. He's got a mistress. He's got a little servant. This guy rocks up, this gangster with a gun. You know that they're about to battle, and it's an intriguing setup because straight away you think, okay, there's a little challenge going on. And although Nick Nack works for Scaramanga, clearly he isn't there to help Scaramanga. He's there to make it a challenge because obviously Scaramanga is such a good shot. You know, he wants it to make it as difficult as possible. And I love that because it's slightly perverse in the way that he's trying to get his master killed so he can have the island and the money. And his master's like, you know, it's nothing like it, but you know, sort of Kato and Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, if you know what I mean. And I really like that side of things. What do you think about that?
Yeah, do you know what? It's what I mean, when it kind of moves in, which we'll talk about in a second, after the title sequence and we see Bond getting his mission, it's kind of like, this is the perfect way to set that scene. Okay, so we're led to believe that Scaramanga is after Bond. And this pre-title sequence sets it up and shows like what a badass that Scaramanga is and shows the level of how deadly he is. Do you know what I mean? And I love that. I think that his relationship with Nick Nack is great. It's like you were saying in the villains episode about Mayday and Zorin are a great double act. I think Scaramanga and Nick Nack are a great double act. Like
they are
visually
definitely.
And in terms of their characters as well. I think they work really well together.
In fact, that's just reminded me strangely, how similar the pre-titles of Golden Gun is to From Russia with Love, because you're setting up the characters. So you're setting up Grant in From Russia to see how good he is, and you see him kill someone in some sort of, you know, game type thing, stalking sort of thing. And the same with Scaramanga, setting him up to show how good he is. But I like the little nods, like he had like his towel had an S on it, you know, for Scaramanga and stuff like that. I thought was quite cool. What did you think of the actual funhouse? So Scaramanga walks back in, suddenly the lights go down, shots are fired, and basically his mission is to try and get his golden gun without getting killed, and then obviously kill this other guy.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, like I feel like Scaramanga is like the anti-Bond, like it more than any other. I mean, even 006, I feel like Scaramanga is like the dark side of Bond. He's got this amazing gadget, you know, he's surrounded by beautiful women and stuff, and that whole kind of thing makes me feel like he's just, you know how Bond gets when he hasn't had a mission for a while and he gets all bored and crusty and miserable. I feel like Scaramanga is probably the same thing, which is why he has these people try and come to kill him, just to keep his skills sharp, but B, for fun and excitement, because he would just be bored hanging out with nothing to do, you know?
Exactly.
And I really like that. And I suppose like the thing with the whole Scaramanga's backstory about like growing up in the circus and all that, that's where the funhouse thing comes from. So I like that. I think
I like that nod as well. That's a cool little thing. And the whole setup where you've got the sort of cowboy mannequin, which does rather resemble Bond with a mustache, doesn't he?
Do you know what? It's funny. He does look very much like Roger Moore, and you sort of squint and you think, "Is that Roger?" But in the special features in Roger's commentary, he says that guy was the guy who was his double throughout the movies. So it's okay. So that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's brilliant. And then you've got the bit where with the Al Capone, the doors open, don't they, and they're all firing, and then he makes a joke about, "Hey, Al." Oh, actually, you can do him really good. Go on.
What does he say? "Hey, Al, wherever you are, don't hold it against me," or something like that. Which was our quote from Ben Cherry last week, wasn't it? So we've already answered that. There you go, Ben.
Nice
Cheers,
work.
Ben. It was a great performance, better than mine, I think.
No, yours was good.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's right. And then obviously you've got the sort of mirrors and the two-way mirrors, and there's a bit before actually that where Scaramanga's face comes up and the guy's, he's already offloaded a few bullets, hasn't he? And he falls down. Nick Nack loves making people fall down that little stairway. There's not actually a thing, does he? He's like, and then it cuts to the point where Scaramanga's spotted the golden gun. He sees where it is. He's got a set of stairs, and he knows that this Rodney guy's like the other side behind the whatever the sort of shield was, you know, the sort of screen sort of thing.
Do you know what I find very exciting is that, and remember when we went to Bond in Motion and my friend Michael came along that I went to school with? My friend Michael, bless him. Michael looks the spitting image of Nick Nack. He's obviously full-sized. He's not a midget, or you're not allowed to say midget anymore, are you? But he's
They call him a midget in the movie, don't they?
They do, don't they? But I think it's one of those terms that you're not supposed to use anymore. But hey, it makes me laugh. Michael has the same face as Nick Nack. It's like it's pretty spot on. So I might post a photo of him on Facebook so people can check him out.
I met him and he has got a Nick Nack vibe going on.
He does,
it's good. Yeah. It's good. Do you know what I love though about the end of this pre-title sequence? I love it when Scaramanga presses a button so the stairs turn into like a slope. And I think it's so cool the way that he basically just slides down on his shoes, down the slope, into a forward roll, gets his gun, headshot right in the middle. Yeah. I love that bit. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. It's all right, that bit. For me, I don't love it. I think it could essentially be a little bit on the, because it's essentially going right into the line of fire. That dude could have easily hit him from where he was. Do you know what I mean?
But it's meant to be the speed of the slide, I guess. I know what you mean.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like if he'd have bombed it down, but he's sort of pretty pretty sort of stuff. But I like the idea. But I think I like that funhouse thing. I like that. I like the whole thing.
Do you know what? You know the sort of claw thing that's holding the gun. At the start, you know what it's in. I think that's quite a cool little thing as well, and like that they could have made more use of that maybe, or if you get a prop replica gun, that should come with it. I think it's kind of like a weird. At first, I thought it looked like a bird, but it's kind of like a claw hand sort of thing, and that's holding the gun. At least that's what it looks like.
I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I'll have to go back and have a little look. But then I suppose the cool bit to kind of end the pre-title sequence is the mannequin of Bond, which, funnily enough, is actually I'll tell you something really funny. When in Roger's commentary, as soon as the light comes on and you see him there, Roger's comment was, "It's one of my more moving performances."
He's so good, isn't he? I love his humour. He's brilliant.
He's brilliant. And apparently, like, I always just assumed that was Roger standing really still. But that was a genuine wax model. I don't know if every shot was a genuine wax model, but it's a really bloody good one, if you ask me.
It's a good one, yeah. And again, it's enough for Scaramanga to show off his skill when he shoots off all the fingers. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. So again, like we said with the Red Grant thing, it sets up Scaramanga so well. Like, this dude is deadly and really skilled, and he's after Bond. So it's like there's no better way to set the movie up, as far as I'm concerned.
Is he? Well, he is. Well, obviously, he is after Bond, but he's not been paid to go after him, has he? It's almost like he sees him as like his only kind of rival, almost, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he's obviously got a lot of respect for him because he's got like a mannequin of him. But,
absolutely.
It's cool.
I suppose it's like if you're pumping iron in the gym and you had a wax model of Arnold Schwarzenegger to kind of like inspire you, I guess. That's really what it is. Yeah.
Do you think, though, the only potential downside of having that mannequin of Bond is the fact that, is that too obvious that you know that Bond's going to end up in its position at the end of the film?
I don't think it is, to be honest with you. I don't know, because I've seen this film so many times over the years. And it's hard. I don't remember a moment thinking that. So I don't know, but for maybe other people, maybe they would think that was like, oh, that's definitely going to come back. But
so in the realm of pre-titles that we've sort of reviewed so far, how do you rate this one?
Well, it's tricky because Bond's not in it, and my favourite pre-titles so far, as we're going through them, would be like Goldfinger is right up there.
That's great.
The Living Daylights is one of my all-time favourites. GoldenEye is one of my favourites. They're great pre-titles. So it kind of doesn't rank up there with those for me, but it's a good one. I mean, I don't dislike it. I'm not disappointed in it. I think it's great. It's just, I suppose it's a bit of an oddity in the fact that Bond isn't in it.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's intriguing more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I definitely wouldn't rate it as the best, but it's got enough going for it to warrant being there and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty cool.
Good stuff. So moving on to the title song. Now, I know a lot of people are not the biggest fans of Lulu's effort. How do you feel about it?
I don't mind it. I would. again, I wouldn't. It's not a song that I'd rate sort of hugely against some of the classics, so to speak. But I think it's all right. It's got a nice little beat to it.
Yeah.
You know, I know it's quite suggestive, which Saltzman wasn't too pleased with, was he? But,
He wasn't into that, was he, old Saltzman?
No.
He was complaining about the songs all the time. Diamonds Are Forever, Touch It, Stroke It, Undress It. He thought it was disgusting. Old Harry, bless his heart. Yeah.
But no, I think it's all right. I think it is a little bit weak compared to some of the real classics, you know. But I think it's right. It's got an energy to it, which I like.
I mean, it's not up there with Goldfinger or Live and Let Die
No.
or those tunes. But I don't think it's a bad song.
No.
It's a cool one. I like when it comes on. I like it. It's nice and upbeat. It's cool. Yeah. And you know the lyrics kind of echo what happens in the movie, so I'm happy with that. And in terms of the actual visuals, I quite like those as well.
Yeah, they weren't too bad. I did find quite repetitive. Like there's a lot of water ripple, and then there's a girl in a water ripple. Then there's a girl's dancing in front of sort of a fireworks sort of displays, quite thing.
There is a lot of what we could call silhouetted nipple in this pre-title sequence.
There is
a
lot
of that, which you know, as we've said before, I can appreciate. But you know, sorry, carry on. I butted in there to do some nipple talk.
There's some more when there's a girl going down a water slide, and you might even be able to see more. I'm not sure, but there we go. Not Roger, that is the actual. Yeah. And then you see some water with water lilies. So I think obviously the Golden Gun makes quite a bit of an appearance, and you see the sort of red paint fingernails sort of slowly stroking the barrel and the end of the gun, very suggestively as the song is being sung as well, which is quite cool. I think it was a little bit, compared to some of them, it's not as in your face compared to say Live and Let Die, which was, I really love Live and Let Die. Like the visually, I thought Live and Let Die was so strong. I didn't find this one as strong. I think for the amount of sort of water ripple effect, it doesn't relate as much to the film as potentially it could have done. Yeah,
I mean, it's not a classic title sequence, is it? It's not one of those that you really remember. You know, like you say something like Goldfinger, which is really visually striking, or Majesties. You know, there's all that really strong imagery. It's just basically naked birds in the Golden Gun throughout, isn't it? Which is all right, isn't it? I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining, Chris. But yeah, it doesn't sort of stand out as a great one. I feel like, I suppose you could say that the song and the title sequence are kind of that sort of level, aren't they? Yeah, they're all right. Exactly, they're decent. They do the job. I don't dislike it, but they don't really stand out as like proper classics either. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. So I suppose after that, we cut to the M briefing scene. We've got Roger coming through those leather double doors. I can't wait to see Daniel do that, Inspector.
It's so good.
And then so we've got this kind of like, it's basically the opposite side of what we had in the pre-titles, which is, you know, the file on Scaramanga, the bullet with the 007 inscription and all that kind of stuff, which I think is great. It just kind of, obviously there's the twist that comes up later, but I think it's the great way to introduce the movie.
It's cool. I like the way Roger comes in and M asks him about Scaramanga, and he pauses. And I don't know if he's doing this on purpose, but like, or whether he's actually trying to think what it is. But, you know, for that split second, you're thinking, Bond doesn't actually know anything about him. And then he reels off like a complete dossier on this guy out of nowhere. I think Roger does that so well. I love it when Roger does stuff like that. And I think that's a great bit. It's a good, brilliant byplay with M when Bond says, well, obviously it's useless. Who'd pay $1 million to have me killed? And then M reels off the list. Humiliated chefs, outraged tailors, and all this stuff.
Jealous husbands, humiliated tailors, outraged chefs. I love that stuff. Yeah,
that's a cool line. So overall, I think it's an interesting one because he's not actually given a mission, is he, in this scene? He's basically told to take leave, or not leave, but, you know, just to lay low for a little while. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing, and Bond's obviously like, well, if I find him first, sort of thing, and you know, that's the kind of thing, isn't it? So he's got his own mission without being given a mission.
It's one of those need to know kind of tap the nose, dodgy wink, like I'll go and do this myself anyway without your knowledge and approval kind of thing. It's exactly. That one of those. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Yeah, but I liked it. I thought it was a good scene.
Yeah. And then we see Moneypenny, who's dressed somewhat provocatively or not in this particular scene with some of the most outrageous 70s clothing I think in this scene, but good to see her back, old Lois.
Yeah, it's good, and I like the fact that they have a little chat about 002, Bill Fairbanks, and obviously when he was last killed, he's by the man with the golden gun, and it's quite a nice little link there, and it's good to see.
You know what kind of crosses my mind actually when you listen to this movie, or watch this movie rather. The title of this movie, The Man with the Golden Gun, is such like an evocative title, isn't it? Because it conjures up this image in your mind. And of course, like in the actual book, Scaramanga just had like a gold revolver. It was
basically what Goldfinger had in Goldfinger.
Exactly that. Yeah, completely. Whereas obviously they've taken it to the next level with this one. But that's I feel like it's an underrated title, The Man with the Golden Gun. Like it's such a.
It is a great title.
Yeah, it really kind of brings an image up in your mind. But anyway, I digressed there for a second.
Yeah.
And then next up, we're in Beirut. So Bond's obviously on the trail, and we've got some belly dancing action. One of my favourite actors in this movie is the.
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
is the grumpy bald dude who's like Ahmed, that guy. I like him.
And then he's like. Bleh!
Yeah.
Sorry, but I did like the actual cut because we see M's door close, and M's door is kind of like the leather door with the sort of gold brass studs, and then it cuts from one of those gold brass studs to the golden bullet in Saida's belly as she's dancing, and that's a nice little transition. I thought that was quite clever.
Yeah, that's true.
That was quite cool. Okay, what I don't kind of get about this scene, you can probably inform me. Okay, so these guys watching Bond, or perhaps watching Saida, or they're there. They're not happy that Bond's oogling her. Okay, so while he's smoking his big foot-long cigar, which Rog loves, so she goes off to her changing room. He goes off to see her. Excuse me. And then obviously there's that cool bit where he's like. Where he's sort of kissing her belly. First of all, he tries to put a hand on it, and she moves her hand, and then he sort of knocks off the lipstick or whatever. So, how clumsy of me! He starts kissing her, and then
you
suddenly,
have a magnificent abdomen.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. And then gets a chop, and then obviously sort of swallows a bullet. So why are these guys beating him up? Why aren't they happy?
I don't know. So essentially, what he's done is he's gone to find the bullet that killed Fairbanks, and that's the bullet that's in her belly. Fairbanks being 002, obviously. Now, originally in the special features, they were saying that scene was written somewhat like this From Russia with Love scene, in the sense that he was going to go in there, Saida was going to be on a bed, and she would have had the bullet on a ribbon around her neck. And there was a mirror behind the bed with the camera filming what they were going to do. Okay. And then there was essentially, they referred to them as blackmailers behind the kind of the one-way mirror, two-way mirror, whatever you call it. And then they rewrote it. So it is interesting. I don't know. I guess they're just sort of general gangsters. I don't think they work. I don't really work for Scaramanga, did they? I guess they're just,
But did she know that was going to happen? Was she part of the setup?
I don't know. I suppose what makes the most sense is that there she is doing her belly dancing, and there's a bunch of local gangsters sitting around watching her. Bond goes in her room, and perhaps the big Ahmed dude, was having a little fun with Saida on the side. Didn't like to see Bond getting in there, and decided to beat him up, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe something along those lines. Because that also threw up, perhaps, well, if 002 died at the hands of Scaramanga, and he was in Saida's arms, was she a part of that? I mean, some people might read that into it. I don't think she was. Yeah, but then if she set up one and then suddenly she's got another 00, who knows? It's a bit weird. I did like the probably one of the cheesiest lines in the film is when Rog goes to sort of, in fact there's loads, but Rog goes to, in fact this film is great for dialogue and cheese. When he goes to see it, and then they're talking about Bill Fairbanks, and he's sort of, Oh, I'm sure Bill would have loved it. And it, like just the way that he says it is so cheesy. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the actual fight then? Bond versus three goons?
Well, I will go on the record and say I feel like this scene is a little bit on the wooden side. Like even the acting between Roger and Saida, like it's a little bit forced, it feels. And the fight is kind of like your typical kind of sort of silly fight in it, really. Lots of judo chops and funny kicks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. How did you feel?
Yeah, I'm the same. It's not one of the strongest fights, unfortunately. But, you know, it's quite good use of the hairspray or whatever it is in the guy's face in the mouth. And when he knocks him into the mirror, it's pretty cool. Yeah. There is actually a scene, it's kind of like a spoiler, it's not really a spoiler, but when they're early on in the fight, a mirror gets knocked and you can actually see the film crew filming the
No
fights.
way! I've never noticed that before.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Do you know I think it was for the DVD or the latest edition of DVDs prior to the Blu-rays, when they got remastered, they had the opportunity to remove it. And apparently Ian were like, oh no, keep it in there. So yeah, you can still see the film crew. It's very brief, but you can still see it. But I think funny.
I'll have to look out for that.
Yeah, it's quite cool. But I think after the fight, I think is one of the best lines I love. It's like, oh, I lost my charm.
Not from where I'm standing. Love it.
How that is such a good line, isn't it? So no matter if the fight wasn't that good, it didn't matter because that line, I think,
bring it on,
worked well. Yeah,
that's the thing we got. So this is a Richard Maybaum, Tom Mankiewicz script, isn't it? This one, so that kind of sparkling, funny dialogue is Tom Mankiewicz to a T. So that's probably one of his lines, I suppose.
Taxi, sir? And then he's like, the nearest pharmacy. Which is good.
Absolutely. Which brings us on to the Q scene.
Yeah.
Now, funny little fact about this. They originally wrote the character of Calthorpe. Yeah. His name originally was Boothroyd because everybody had forgotten that Q's real name was actually Geoffrey Boothroyd. And then they changed it at the last minute because they suddenly remembered. So, that's a funny little tidbit fact. Yeah.
The name Boothroyd must have been in there somewhere, like to use that. That's quite a coincidence. Well, quite a thing. Yeah, I didn't know. That's quite funny. But parts of this scene I really like, and parts of this scene, I think the background is a little bit disappointing. You don't see much. If this is Q's lab, all you've got is this weird sort of, what is it? I don't know. It's a brick wall sort of thing with some sort of thing that they're trying to line up and then it explodes it. And it's a shame because I know look at Goldeneye when he's got like things flying off everywhere. Even in Goldfinger, you know, while he's taking him to the Aston Martin, you've got the bulletproof coat and one or two other things happening. Yeah. And it just seemed that I would have liked to have seen at least 2 or 3 other things going on in the background.
Yeah, what you want from a classic Q Lab scene is you want to see some of the crazy shit that he's been building and making and stuff, and you don't really get that in this one.
No,
but I mean, it's okay. The tricky thing is when you've got a series of films that are like 23, 24 strong, is you can't have that every single time, can you? So,
that's true.
But sadly, I feel like this should have been a good one because we didn't even have Q in the previous movie. So it's like you should have come back with a bit of a bang. But we'll.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. He has a good moments in Spy. Q does.
He certainly does.
He's a bit underplayed, I think, in Golden Gun. But I did like the whole thing where, another brilliant line when he has a bullet and Bond's like, oh, you've no idea what I went through to get here, sort of thing. You know, his alimentary canal, Dr. Leiter.
Yeah.
I thought the whole thing with Q and Calthorpe looking at the bullet and Q obviously sort of saying, oh, nickel content too low and all this, and then Lazar. I thought that was quite a nice little bit. And
that's something they like to do a fair bit, isn't it? Like finding a bullet and then using that bullet to trace where it's come from. They did that in Skyfall, didn't they?
They did. Yeah, you're right. It's a clever thing. MI6 love it.
They like a bit of bullet tracing. Nickel content is obviously too low. There we go. So then we cut to Macau, which obviously Bond goes back to in Skyfall.
Yeah.
This is kind of like, I like this sequence a lot, right? Because I like these kind of little, I feel like Lazar is like a proper Fleming character, isn't he? Like some little dude in a little workshop who makes bullets for like the best hitmen in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like a really evocative Fleming-esque kind of thing. I can't remember. It's been years since I read the book, so I can't remember if Lazar is actually in the book or not, or whether he's an original character. But yeah, I really love that little workshop down there. This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Actually,
me too. It's fantastic. Yeah, I love even the intro where Bond's trying to speak to this sort of family who stop eating, and then as soon as Lazar shows up and invites them, they like just shovel down the noodles or whatever. But it was quite interesting that Lazar sort of said that Bond's reputation preceded him, and I think within this scope, within this field, I think that's acceptable because obviously Bond. I mean, well, to a certain extent, perhaps Bond. I know he's a Secret Service agent, but he's one of the best, sort of thing. So I guess for an ammunition maker or gun maker, you can accept that. There's a bit later on in the film which is a bit less believable, but yeah. I mean, I'm the same as you in terms of this scene. I think it's great. It goes down. I love the rifle without a trigger that's housed in the butt.
Yeah.
And like the 1 inch too low. And again, you've got some of the best dialogue, I think, in the series. And, it
is a great scene. That kind of, that bit where he turns the gun round and he's like, I'm aiming precisely at your groin. And yeah, I think that's one of the strongest scenes in the thing. I love Lazar. I think he's brilliant.
I think the actual actor that played him did well, and he suddenly gets all sort of freaked out, doesn't he? And
Roger said he was a very kind man, that actor, even though he looked a bit devilish, I think was the term he used.
I like Lazar. I thought he was awesome, and it is cool that it's not some flashy place either.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, here's all my shiny guns and bullets. It is this sort of dirty workshop type place, isn't it? And I think that's exactly what it would be. So, so that's cool. Yeah,
good stuff.
And then he gets the old cigarette packet out with the golden bullets, and and then we go to a different sort of casino scene to what we normally see, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's kind of after that we go on the trail of Miss Anders, don't we? On the little kind of hydrofoil. I like the fact that Bond's sitting in the back row in the far corner, so he can survey everything around. That's precisely where he would sit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I kind of like the way he's kind of scoping out Miss Anders. And then obviously we get to meet Mary Goodnight, who can only be described as one of the most sort of strong characters in the Bond canon. Definitely the most intelligent.
Without a doubt. Well, she's had 2 years posting of intelligence service, so she must be pretty good.
Bless her heart.
I know. Well, basically, so Bond's trying to follow Anders, and then she initially blocks him with a MG car, and he sort of has a go at her, but then she redeems herself with a knowledge of green Rolls Royces at the Peninsula Hotel. And so, they go off there. And then Rog does one of his favourite lines is, I need some information, because he likes that.
He loves to find out information, doesn't he, Roger?
He does. That's his favourite sort of pastime, I think. So he finds out about it, and then obviously comes back and sort of says to good night, basically, shoo off, I've got to go do some business type stuff, which she's not too happy with, actually, is she?
No, absolutely not. Now, am I getting this wrong? Is Mary Goodnight his secretary in the books?
She is indeed. Now, this was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask later, but I'll ask now. Now, it's a shame because she is Bond's secretary in the books, and she's a character that could easily appear again, but obviously in a different guise with a different actress, perhaps. Would you, if there was a Mary Goodnight to appear in a future Bond, would you be happy, or do you think it wouldn't work, or would you not be happy?
I don't know. I think because I remember, I'm sure Mary Goodnight was his secretary, and I had another secretary called Loelia Ponsonby at some point. I remember that one too.
A couple,
and she's never shown up in the movies. No. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Goodnight showed up in a few of the books, didn't she? She wasn't just in one. Yeah. So I feel like
she's in quite a few.
I feel like that's something that could be kind of. I think you'd have to reimagine her for today, quite considerably. But I'd like to see Goodnight come back. There's so many Fleming characters that could still come back.
I think if you've got a Fleming character that's in more than one book, then bringing them back in the films isn't a bad thing necessarily. If they don't, it doesn't matter. But it's not like sacrilege. Whereas bringing a character that's just in one book that's already been in a film back is a bit weird. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess after that point, when we go into the Peninsula Hotel, is one of kind of like one of my favorite bits and one of the most controversial. There it is. Excellent quote. And is one of my favorite bits and also one of the most controversial scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
So we've got Bond kind of sneaking into Miss Anders' room. She's in the shower, obviously, and I like how he's got his gun out and he's ready. And then as soon as he sees the net, he just puts his gun away and just sits there and just enjoys the view. And I love the expression on his face. Yeah, it's exactly what he's doing, and I love the expression on his face. He just looks so satisfied and happy and chuffed with the whole situation.
Can you do a Roger Moore perv face for me?
I don't know whether I can. I guess it's just it's just a slightly raised eyebrow, and that's as far as it goes.
That's amazing. I like that.
But there it is. So you got that bit, and then obviously you've got the what everybody remembers is the hard-edged Roger Moore bit, where he obviously smacks her around a little bit. He gets her arm up behind her back and all that. Roger was very unhappy with that. Apparently, he didn't like it at all.
No, but I think Guy Hamilton was trying to make a conscious effort to make Bond harder because he was saying that he'd gone a bit soft, and so even though parts of the film he's not as hard, that was a conscious effort to try and give Bond a hard edge.
Yeah,
and I know Roger wasn't happy with it, and I know quite a few people have sort of said, "Oh, that's not Roger's Bond; it's not right." And I know that hitting, because he does give her a slap as well, and that's not right. And they're trying to break her arm isn't right, but I don't, it doesn't sort of throw me out the scene when I watch it because of that.
No, I mean Roger definitely has his moments, like kicking Locke off the cliff and all that kind of stuff. And I know he's mentioned that was too hard for him as well. He didn't like that, or too dark or harsh for Roger. But like I feel like if you were to take those moments away, then I feel like you need that balance. You've got Roger, who's Mr. Jokes and light-hearted fun, which is great. Yeah. But I feel like, to keep that Bond flavour in there, you need to have a little bit of darkness in there as well. So I don't think it's bad at all. Like if they'd have cut that out, I think that would have been the wrong move. Yeah,
I think so, definitely. Yeah. So but it's quite good as well. And I love another good line is I love it when basically he's just found out about. From Miss Anders, that basically about the Bottoms Up Club, and then she's like, "Oh, why would you trust me?" And he's basically, "Well, who knows? Scaramanga may even use one of those little golden bullets on you, and that would be a pity because they're very expensive." I love that. It's so good. That's
cool.
Yeah, it's a good line.
So, you were talking about a nice transition earlier from the little sort of gold stud on M's door to the golden bullet. Now, this next transition is one of my favourites because you just get a full frame picture of a bottom, which is great. A lady's bottom, obviously. And we cut to the Bottoms Up Club, which when I went to Hong Kong briefly, I wish I'd have gone, but apparently that club is like moved and in a different place and all that kind of crazy stuff.
Is there actually, I know it's not in the same place, but is there still a Bottoms Up Club?
I think there is, but it's not like the one. I think they maybe moved it, and that original site is something else these days. But that would be a great visit to go to that Bottoms Up Club, wouldn't it?
It's slightly in relation to this. I've got a very good potential hint of something that we can give out for the next podcast next Friday, and I'm not going to say what it is. That's all I'm going to give you.
Oh, well, you've intrigued me and our listeners, Chris. You've double whammied it.
There we go.
All right,
I have indeed. There we go.
Interesting. Okay. So we see Mr. Gibson, and we see Lieutenant Hip. And so I feel like what this location is one of the really memorable ones, like the little baskets coming down and all that kind of stuff. Gibson has his ginger ale and all that kind of stuff. It's great. How do you feel about this scene?
Yeah, I think it plays pretty much. It's not like a complex scene, but I think it works well. I mean, obviously you mentioned the bottom intro, which is quite interesting, and obviously you see Gibson having a perv as well. It shows a bit to his character really, because he's obviously sitting on this £1 million bit of technology or information sort of thing. But yet, he could get that money straight away, but no, he knows that's coming. He just wants a drink and a perv, and
And why not? Good on you, Gibson.
Why not just enjoy yourself? Yeah. And obviously, Lieutenant Hip's there to try and talk to, try and chat to him about the Solex and everything about that. But what I really love about this scene is the, you've got Scaramanga when you just see him setting up. And I love the fact that as well, he's just like had his way with Miss Anders to train the eye, because that's important.
Do you know what? I love the way he just walks in. She's in bed. He just walks in and he just rubs his gun all over her. He just gets it in her mouth and all over her nose. I love that scene. It's so funny. It makes me laugh.
When she sort of turns away, you can tell he's like really pissed off. He's like, no, I'm going to shove this gun where I want to.
No, let me stick it up your nose. Yeah.
But yeah, so he has this wicked way with Miss Anders, and then he sort of sets up this shot. And like, because up until this point in the film, we know that, we've seen he's got a mannequin of Bond. We've seen that Bond's received this golden bullet. And we think, well, hang on a minute, this guy could be ready to shoot Bond. He's got the perfect opportunity. Hip and Gibson comes out, bang. And I love the fact perfect shot, middle of the head, Gibson's down. And I think that's just a great scene there. And then you've got even better when Nick Nack turns up and obviously he sort of makes sure that Bond and Hip doesn't get their hands on the Solex and stuff. So what do you think of that scene?
I love that. I think it's one of those, Blofeld loves to kind of pretend he's going to kill somebody and then kills the other person. And it's kind of like we're led to kind of believe it's almost like that, but different, obviously. You've got Bond walking completely unaware. The gun's pretty much aimed at his head. And then we've got Gibson. Like it kind of, it's like a cat and mouse thing, isn't it? It's like another way to show that Scaramanga's really fucking good at what he does. Yeah. And if he wanted to, he could have taken Bond out there and then.
Yeah, that's true. I love also, it's quite a cute little bit where Bond's sort of looking at himself in the monitor, sort of adjusting his tie, and then Nick Nack walks along next to him and starts sort of sorting his tie out as well. I think that was a really cool little bit.
Yeah, that is cool.
Smart, isn't it? It's a good little funny bit. Yeah, so then basically, obviously, shots been fired. The police sort of jeep sort of turns up, and then Hip's like, detaining him under section whatever it is. Yeah. And basically, then he managed to get Bond away from the police because obviously he would have been arrested, even though Bond sort of says, if you bother to inspect the gun, you'll see it's not fired. So they get in the jeep, they drive away, and they basically get to a boat. So it's Hip, Bond, and one or two others on this boat, and then they go out to sea, heading supposedly for
Kowloon.
Yeah, Kowloon side. Yeah. Okay, so now here's a bit that I'm not sure about. Why does Hip not tell Bond what's happening?
Well, you've mentioned this before, haven't you, as one of your kind of gripes, and there is no reason for him not to tell Bond. It's just a way for them to make things tense, of being like, Bond's been kidnapped. Oh, no, he hasn't. He's been taken back to MI6. So there's no... But they kind of address it, don't they, when they actually get to the MI6 scene, and Hip just says like, "Oh, I didn't know how much you knew."
That was they try to, but it's a bit weak.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think they realised upon probably viewing their rushes, are like, "Oh crap, we better put something in there, quickly say this or something." But I think that completely doesn't matter once we get to the Queen Elizabeth, because I think that's amazing. I love the fact that they've got the sunken Queen Elizabeth. It's on its side. The MI6 are using it as a base, and even better is when you get inside all the angled sets. I think it's brilliant. Like Peter Merton was the production designer on this, and I love it. I think that's some of the best bit in the film. Like,
there we go. Yeah, that's something to be said as well. We've got no Ken Adam this time.
Ken Adam.
But Peter Merton, actually, it's funny. They all came from the same school, apparently, of School of Design. Ken Adam, Peter Merton, and...
Peter Lamont?
Peter Lamont, yeah. I blanked there for a second. Yeah, they all came from the same school. And Peter Merton actually served under Ken Adam on Goldfinger. So he was of good stock.
Yes,
but I think that sets one of the most like memorable ones of the series. Like people remember that. And it's it's a really strikingly visual set and a stroke of genius as well on a shipwreck. Like it's good. I mean, it's a bit silly, obviously. It's not like, the Royal Secret Service wouldn't have a base there, but
you just go
great.
With it, though, don't you?
You just go with it, and it's great. I really like it. It's good stuff.
Yeah. I like
which actually, I'm just going to say, I forgot to mention this during our Spectre section. And again, this isn't a spoiler. This is just something that I'd like to address. The fact that MI6 is kind of blown up in the beginning of the trailer, means that I reckon they're going to have a universal exports again.
If they did, right, I'd have to get 2 boxes of tissues because that would be flipping amazing. Do you think they will? That would be so good if they did.
Do you know what? Because it struck me like, shit, Universal Exports was like a false building. Like it had the little plaque on the door, and we haven't seen that in donkey's years.
Yeah.
And it's been the MI6 building. And there was some lines in Skyfall about how that MI6 building at Vauxhall was too much of a tactical target kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, oh man, if we see that, that's going to be great. Yeah,
that would be good.
Anyway, sorry for the segue again. I just get moments where Spectre things just jump into my brain, and I just feel compelled to talk about it. And there it is. Anyway, good stuff. Anyway, back to the ship.
Yeah. So we go back to the ship. So basically, Hip and Bond tell M that they've screwed up. That basically Gibson got shot, and then they tried to find the Solex, and it wasn't there, even though Gibson has said it's 95% efficient. Mm-hmm. So M's really pissed off, and basically tells Bond he almost wishes that Scaramanga did have a contract on him, which for his top agent, he's a bit angry in this film. Is old M, isn't he? He's not happy at all.
He's a bit more like the M in Never Say Never Again, isn't he?
He is a little bit. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it's an interesting bit. Basically, Bond's basically getting told off, really, isn't he? He and Hip. But I did like the point where Bond sort of twigs that it. I suppose there's a bit of luck on his part, but he kind of says, High Fat and Scaramanga would never have met because so they didn't connect to one another. So he was taking a risk. But I love the fact that. When he asked Q for what he needed, and Q's reaction was pretty sweet.
It's like, really, 007? I love that. Yeah, that's such a great one. I love I love Q's relationship, with Bond. I look forward to that. My favourite of Sean's scenes with Desmond is the one in Thunderball. Love that one. That's a brilliant Q scene. But I feel like his relationship with Roger is no different. They still have that same little chemistry between the two of them that just makes that work. Maybe even more so with Roger because he's such like a joker and a wind-up merchant. I love that. It's really good. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. But interesting little fact, and he didn't know about this until he saw the movie, but Lieutenant Hip, whenever there are scenes indoors, that's his own voice. And whenever there are exterior scenes with Lieutenant Hip, that's somebody else who's dubbed him. Isn't that funny?
Well, I happened to dub him when they were outside their karate school later on in the film.
You did, didn't you? Can you perform that? Can you perform that line again? Because it's great.
I might have to wait until we get to that section where we talk about it.
All right, yeah, save it. Oh man, I love that. That's good stuff.
That's funny though, because I didn't know that. So it's only when it's interior that it's his own voice. Yeah. Why did they do that then? Why?
I don't know.
Did they change it when it was exterior?
On the special features, he says the guy who played Hip says that he got a letter from Cubby just before the premiere of the movie. Just sort of explaining that it might be a bit different to how he imagines, but it was for the overall benefit of the movie for whatever. So I don't know whether it was performance or whether it was just like the quality of the sound. I don't know, but whatever. I don't know. It's an odd one, but you can't tell. I mean, whoever did the exterior is like exactly the same. Another example of amazing dubbing from Bond movies.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. That's something I didn't know at all. I did think it was quite interesting as well, just at the very end of that scene where. Obviously, Bond's screwed up a bit, Hip's screwed up a bit, and M's sort of solution is to bring Goodnight back into the fold. So, as she's a quality liaison officer, and it's like, well,
Goodnight will sort it out.
Yeah, she knows what she's on about, but quite good.
So that takes us on to to High Fat's mansion, gaff, or whatever you want to call it, and. I really like this sequence. The whole thing with standing on Hip standing on Bond's shoulders, and
he looks so cool, doesn't he? He's just there with a cigar, just chilling, Hips on his shoulder. I love that bit. I think that's Roger Moore looking probably his coolest in this film.
Yeah,
great bit. Did you notice as well that the big red gate with the yellow sort of bolts on it? Or whatever. That's exactly the same as M's door as well. Red leather with the sort of brass indentation.
Oh, interesting.
It looked the same. Yeah, I don't know why. It just twigged that when I saw it.
And then we meet a character who is, again, one of the most memorable in the series for young boys, which is Chew Me in the pool.
Bye!
Bye. There you go. There's another one of your classic quotes. With clearly visible
downstairs hair.
Downstairs department stuff is how I'll describe it in the pool, which is great. I mean, how they got that past the sensors, I don't know, but it's definitely there.
It is definitely there.
In Blu-ray, it's definitely viewable. It's great.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, though. How did they get that past the sensors? I don't know. They must have just blinked and missed it or something. I don't know.
Imagine the view old Roger would have had. They're right there, inches away. But there we go. But yeah, it's funny. We never see Chew Me again, do we? It's just like a little brief bit in the pool. So she was just there purely to provide a little bit of minge for us eagle-eyed viewers.
I thought you were going to say for high fat as well, probably.
Well, there you go, for high fat as well, obviously. But yeah. So how do you feel about this bit? Obviously, Bond's hanging out by the pool. High fat comes down. He's like, "Get out!" And then Bond just whips out his third nip, and then it's like, "Oh, you're clearly Mr. Scaramanga."
Yeah.
So how do you feel about this scene?
Well, I think the setting's amazing. I love all the sort of dragons and the gardens and the waterfalls and the swimming pools. I think it looks absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the idea is an interesting one. Obviously, Bond's already said in the previous scene that's what he's going to do. You know, Scaramanga and thing hadn't met. I actually think Bond's third nipple looks more realistic than Scaramanga's third nipple.
It's a decent nipple, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a decent nipple. Because Scaramanga's got a bit of a hairy chest. And you can see where they've shaved off a bit of hair to put his third nipple, whereas they should have just shaved it all. Whereas Roger is obviously a bit bare-chested, like Japanese men, bird never make nest in bare tree. But so he's got his third nipple, and it seems a bit more realistic almost.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Good nipple. Good nipple.
Absolutely.
So the scene was no, I think it's interesting, isn't it? So high fat comes down, they had the little chat, but it does get to a little bit silly, where Bond sort of says, "Oh, you know, have you? What about Bond? You know, haven't you heard of Bond?" And you know, there's very few people who haven't heard of Bond, and it's almost, if this guy is a secret agent, you know, a businessman in Southeast Asia is not going to know who he is he?
Yeah.
So that is a little bit silly, but I think the idea of trying to be Scaramanga to get to high fat is fine. I think that works well. I like the bit where after the meeting, you must have found me quite titillating, and he like just chucks it in the. I love the fact when he just chucks stuff in the bush, just like Q with a broom in License to Kill. You know, the nipple here. I reckon that nipple is still there, and I think we talked about that, didn't we? We will go and find that nipple if we go back.
Go and find the nipple and just stick it on and wear it. Yeah, but it's not in good shape after all these years. But hopefully, it's still in that bush somewhere.
And then obviously we see that, lo and behold, Scaramanga's there the whole time, and then
I do like that bit, because it's like Scaramanga's almost like laughing to himself, like there's that real level of admiration there again, which is nice to see. It's fun,
and you see he's smiling to himself, isn't he? He's like one step ahead of Bond. He knows obviously what Bond's going to do, and he's always there. But then from his point of view, having Bond actually turned up has almost given him weight to high fat, to, you know, watch out for this guy sort of thing, and stuff like that. So I think that's quite cool.
It's good stuff. And then obviously Bond comes back at night time, and then we have the little kind of garden section with the sumo wrestlers and Knick Knack in his little mask and his trident spear.
I think that's cool. I like that.
I do like that sequence. It's one of those kind of like, I guess it's like that kind of setting, like with the Funhouse. It's just that kind of different vibe, and you remember it. Like you definitely remember that sequence.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I remember when, like all the different statues, and then suddenly you get to the two sumos, and they're real. I think the actual fight with the sumo guys, again, it's a little bit not quite there, is it? I mean, he grabs one guy's ass and then basically gives him a wedgie. That's quite interesting. But I like Knick Knack with the mask and the trident, sort of knocking Bond out and stuff like that. But just prior to that, there's one line which I think we have to mention. This is when Bond, he briefly goes back to see Goodnight before the night, and basically Goodnight says she'll keep the the champagne or the wine chilled, and Bond says, "And everything else warm, I trust." And that is
and everything else warm.
Such a Mankiewicz dirty line, which obviously kids wouldn't get, but I love it. I think it's a brilliant line. I love it. Tom Mankiewicz. He's cracking with
dude.
The
when I heard him speak at that kind of weekend of Bond movies, he was by far the most entertaining speaker. Like he was just one of those that was so like excited to tell stories and stuff, and he was telling stories about like affairs he'd had with people over the years and all this crazy stuff. They were all hilarious, man. What a great guy. It's such a shame that he died soon after that, actually.
That was his last one, wasn't it? His last Bond.
He died like literally like about a month or two after that time.
Oh, really?
He spoke. Yeah. So it was a shame, but what a dude, what a cool guy.
Yeah.
You could hearing him speak, you can just hear the Bond references like coming out of him. Do you know what I mean? So that was good fun. But one of the lines that I like to quote all the time for some reason is this one: "Take Mr. Bond to school."
That is a great one as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. That's a good one.
So we go to the karate school.
Yeah. So I think it's quite nice how this scene is introduced with Bond. Sort of, he's obviously been knocked out and he's coming to, and he's got like these women sort of mopping his brow and giving him tea and making sure he's feeling all right. And then you've got this lovely sort of sun setting over this, quite an interesting looking sort of. What is it, like an open? It's obviously a battle arena, but initially you don't quite know what it is, and it looks quite it
almost looks like it could be some sort of spa or like
like a spa or an open air temple or something like that. And then you see these martial artists obviously in their gear just walking down and getting into their positions, and suddenly like, oh, what's going on here? But I love the next bit where you've got the two guys with both of them with swords. Now, the reason I love this so much is because when I was like probably 7 or 8, I had a pair of red pajamas, and and they were red karate pajamas, that open their top with a belt. Right, I had sort of a kung fu guy on one sort of chest and a karate sort of guy on the other chest, but the red pajamas looked exactly like the guy. With the red sort of pajamas in this, and I was so happy when he used to beat the other guy. I remember when I was young, going, "Yeah, I've got red pajamas. He's the guy that's won." I used to love that so much. But I mean, that's quite hardcore. They're doing the old battle with the blades, and you see, obviously, the guy flies back, and he's got a big slash across his belly with a lot of blood. That's pretty hardcore.
It's pretty intense if you're just sort of practicing or whatever. But there you go. I think. I know a lot of people don't like this sequence, and I can understand it, but I really like this bit. I like how Bond gets kind of pulled up to fight the first guy. Yeah. And the first guy
walks back really cockily as well. He thinks, oh yeah, this Bond guy's nothing, and he's sort of quite cocky, even the first guy. But that bit's brilliant, isn't it?
I love it. He just boots him in the face, game over immediately. Like if there's a way Roger's Bond would dispatch somebody, it's that, kind of taking the piss kind of
Genius,
thing. I love that. And then equally, I love the bit when Chula comes out. And it's like, well, obviously we're going to bring out the big guns now. Yeah. And that bit where they bow and he's just sort of like bows.
He looks the business, Chula, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he does look the business.
Yeah.
What about the fighting?
I mean, it's all right, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit silly. It's not the finest hour of on-screen combat, is it? No. I think there are a couple of bits where it's all right. It's quite slow-paced and everything, but there are 2 moments in that fight which are quite, they do make me laugh because they're quite bad. One of them, Bond is sort of is bent forward on his knees, and basically Chula puts his foot on his back. But Harley touches him, and then Bond sort of reacts, and it's almost as if Chula's toe had pinched Bond's back. Yeah. And it looked a bit weird. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing, which I think is amazing, is towards the end of the fight, before the guy gets punched, Bond's on the floor, and he's about to get up, and Chula basically jumps in front of Bond and just like lands in front of him, and just stands like a statue for about 2 seconds for Bond to like hit him. And I love that bit. I think it's so funny. But obviously, it is what it is. But it is what it is completely.
Yeah. And then Bond knocks him one, doesn't he?
So then we have the kind of the escape sequence where he kind of dives out the window.
That's quite a good dive.
And as luck would have it, Lieutenant Hip happens to be driving along at that exact moment, which was handy, wasn't it?
Yeah. And who did he have with him as well, which was also quite lucky.
They're his nieces, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Because you know what their father used to do. Or what their father did.
What did they used to do, Chris?
Forgot to tell you, their father ran karate school.
I love that. I love it so much. It's such a good quote.
But yeah, so what are your feelings of this? Because I know some people think, oh, come on, Bond's a secret agent, he can fight, and then he's got these two girls like saving his skin. Although he probably could have fought as well, but they're fighting instead of him and all that. But in keeping with the film, it is just a bit of fun, and they do handle themselves. They're probably some of the best martial artists in the film, actually. Like,
well, do you know what? Like, when I was in Thailand and I saw those kind of Muay Thai kickboxing gyms and trainers and stuff, it's like it's in their blood, man. Like, they have these kids who are like couldn't be older than 3 and 4, all like kitted up, fighting each other at that age. And like I saw some kids who couldn't have been like more than 12 years old, and the way they train their kicks is basically kicking bamboo trees repeatedly. And I saw these kids like pretty much chopping down a tree with kicks. Like when I say a tree, not like a big thick tree, like a bamboo sapling. Kind of tree. And I was like, man, like that kid could probably kick my ass, and he's 10 years old. You know what I mean? And so as funny as this scene is, I feel like it pushes the realms of reality, but I don't think it's way beyond it, you know?
No, I think it's all right. And, Hip's sort of sorting out the other side, and Bond's basically a spectator, isn't he? Just watching them kick.
And I love the way he ends, and just like there's that one guy who's all messed up at the end, and he just like pushes his face.
Pushes him, it's great. Yeah, and then they leg it. He gets to the bridge, and that guy who he pushed over catches him, and he chucks him in the river. What is a bit strange is while the fight's going on, isn't Chula and the guy who runs the school basically just looking out the window watching them? Isn't he kind of going, oh, what's going on here? Or do they only do that after the fight's finished?
I don't know. I didn't really pay too much attention to that, but I guess it's just one of those things, isn't it? You just got to be like,
it is. Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
whatever.
Yeah. But there is something which is coming up, which is something that's hard to ignore a little bit, and that's you know what it is.
Well, obviously there's the bit where I keep wanting to call him High Fat, where Hip gets into the car and the nieces get into the car and they drive off, and Bond's running out, and he just drives away without Bond getting in the car.
And Bond is like 5 feet away from the car.
Well, I'm going to defend this a little bit because I have actually done that to somebody in the past, right? I didn't carry on driving, but we were in a real hurry, essentially.
Right.
And my mate Sam was about to get into the back of the car, and he had the door open, and I was just so like, we've got to go.
Yeah.
That I actually pulled away, and he like fell, not unlike what happens in the Man with Gold Gun, actually. And then obviously I'd realised my error, and I was like, oh shit, and reversed a bit, and he got in, and away we went. So I don't think that's beyond the realms of thing. And if there was a team of ninjas chasing me at the time, I probably would have just kept going. So
yeah,
I know, but I know what you're saying, and is purely it's purely so they can have a boat chase.
Yeah, but I think what they could have done is maybe have just one of the school catching up to him before he gets to the car.
Yeah,
they have their little battle or whatever it is, and obviously by that time Hip's got away. But I mean, okay, so then so we get past that bit, and then Bond gets in. It's Mexican screw up, and obviously gets the sort of thing. And then they get onto the Klongs, and then all the Chula and his mates find their sort of long speedboat to go after him. So what do you think of the sort of boat chase bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's all right in it. It's kind of you've had the greatest boat chase in the world in the previous movie, so it doesn't really match up to that. But I mean, it's a new setting. It's kind of interesting, I suppose. I mean, it's all right. It does the job. But we get one of my favourite scenes with the little boy and the wooden elephant. I love that.
Yeah,
bit. That's cool.
Oh, I should have bought my wooden elephant. It's upstairs.
You should have done. There it is.
Know,
I was wondering whether you had it close by when I was watching it. I was like, I wonder whether Chris has got his elephant. But 20,000 baht.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's played for laughs, isn't it, this boat chase? But I still think it's quite cool. There are some things that I love about it. The little urchin boy, I think, is great. He's trying to sell it to the woman, jumps in the river, gets in Bond boat. You're a very handsome man, 40 parts and all this. And then, like, obviously, he turns that little thing. Would Bond? I suppose Bond wouldn't know that, would he? Well, he didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then he like just basically pushes him in, and it is a bit bad. But you would in that situation probably do that if you were Bond, because you're not going to want a kid hanging around your boat when some guy's trying to go after you, are you? So
nah, I suppose not. Yeah, it was for the kid's own good, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. And then obviously they sort of chase him, and Bond sort of hides for a little bit, doesn't he? And they don't know what's happening, and then suddenly slices through the middle of their boat. It goes in half, and Pepper's there watching, laughing, and spitting tobacco. And
yeah, so J.W. Pepper, the thought of him going on holiday to Thailand doesn't really match up. J.W. Pepper would be the kind of person that never leaves America. He would probably never leave Louisiana.
Exactly.
And all the rest of it. And I just love the comedy racism from him, like calling everybody pointy heads and all that kind of stuff. And all that, the old racist copper. But it's fun. I like J.W. Pepper. I know a lot of people think he's silly, but I think he's people remember him. He's really memorable, and he is a bit of comedy relief. I like him.
Yeah. No, I think he's all right. I think obviously he's a little bit more acceptable in Live and Let Die than here, but I still think it's in line with the film. What I love about this bit is at the very end, when Bond's just slowly going past the Chula and his mates, just waving at them, and then Pepper clocks him, and you get that the little Live and Let Die cue. I love that bit. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then after that, they're back at the sort of outside the hotel having a drink. Bond and Goodnight, aren't they, with the Thai girls doing their sort of dancing and stuff.
Well, before that, we've got the bit with which I think is one of the best scenes, which is where Scaramanga kills High Fat. Like that's such a great moment.
That's a brilliant bit.
The whole thing where High Fat comes in, Scaramanga's sitting down at the desk, and he's just calmly assembling the gun, and they're just chatting away, and then he just lifts it up and bang, shoots him. And there's that line, isn't it, where he's like, he always did like that mausoleum, put him in it. Which I think is great.
I think that is it could probably be the best scene. Well, at least it's definitely one of the best scenes in the film, isn't it? And again, it's at the first time we've seen. I think that's the first time we see Scaramanga actually assemble the gun, because we kind of know. You've seen the actual gun before, but you don't quite know what it is. Yeah, Have we seen him assemble it before?
I don't think so. You only ever really see it completed, and that's a good. That's a good point. I think
it is. So that's great, because straight away you're letting the audience in on something new, and the fact that he's doing it subtly, kind of under the desk sort of thing, and High Fat's not knowing. And he's like, there's no problem.
Yeah,
and then I think it's a brilliant scene. It's Scaramanga's really he's cold when he does it, and I think that's probably one of my favourite scenes in the whole film.
Yeah, mine too.
And obviously he takes a Solix agitator as well. He's got that now, and that's his. And brilliant stuff. Although there is one thing about it which I noticed, which is very minor, but when he does shoot High Fat, he blinks when he shoots. Sometimes if sometimes if people are in a gun training thing and they shoot and they're sort of not used to it. But I just noticed that. It's only small. But I mean, the scene's fantastic. Yeah,
it is a good one. So then we move on to Bond and Goodnight having a little drink and a bit of romance.
Foo yuck.
And do you know what? I looked everywhere for foo yuck when I was in Thailand, and it doesn't.
Did anyone? If you asked them, did anyone? I wonder. We'll have to Google it and see.
I wonder whether it was just a fictional wine, but knowing what I do about Thailand and kind of some of their beverages and food and stuff, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a foo yuck. But
I'm sure there was at the time, if there's not now.
But there we go. But I do like that whole that thing he says to her about I like your frock, not too many buttons, and all that kind of stuff. That's a great one. Now, I think
Bond is really pervy in this film, isn't he?
He is, isn't he? And I love that. I really do. I think it's brilliant, especially because it's Roger. He just does it completely to a T. I think it's great. Now, this next bit is one of my favourite scenes in the entire series. I absolutely adore it, which is where he goes back to his hotel room. We think, Bond's just going back to his hotel room by himself. And then we see Goodnight come out in a rather lovely little outfit, I must admit. And then Miss Anders shows up, and the way he just gets her in, pushes her in the cupboard, and then and then beds Miss Anders and that whole thing. And then he wakes her up in the morning. The poor cow's been in there all night. And then she's obviously a bit grumpy with him. And he says, "Oh, don't worry, your turn will come." I love that. It's
really
just
bad,
so
isn't it?
arrogant and awful. I think it's one of the best things in the whole series. I think it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, he is pretty bad. Because there's a part, though, isn't there? Just before they go back to the hotel, and Goodnight is like, "Oh, James, I'm not going to spend the night as one of your passing fancies." And you think, wow, this character's got a strong point to her. And then he goes back to the hotel and there she is. You're like, oh, I was weak. You're like, well, yeah, it's a bit of a shame that a character's like that.
We are dealing with James Bond here, who is irresistible to all women. So that
is true. That is true. It's kind of, swings and roundabouts and all that. Yeah. But I love that. But he goes back to the hotel. First of all, he hides her in the bed, doesn't he? The old 3-pillow trick. Yeah. And then shoves her in the cupboard.
Reference to Dr. No.
Yeah, exactly. Reference to Dr. No. And then shoves her in the cupboard. It's he doesn't treat her all that well.
No, I love it. As awful as it is, I love it when Roger mistreats his women in that way. I think it's hilarious. It's brilliant. It's good stuff.
There was another little link to a previous Bond where Bond says to Anders that her sending the bullet was an inspiration. And that made me think of Bond as Sir Louis Bray, when he goes around to all the women, "Oh, the inspiration, and so are you," that sort of thing, which is quite a cool little thing, I thought.
It is cool. I suppose this is a turning point, isn't it? Because we find out at this point that Miss Anders is the one that sent the bullet, not Scaramanga.
Yeah,
so Scaramanga is not actually after Bond. And this is where we kind of find it out. So this is like a key sequence, I guess, delivered very well. I love it. Good stuff. So he obviously has his way with Miss Anders, and
she basically offers herself, doesn't she?
She certainly does. Yeah,
I'll get you the Solex, and you can have me too if you like.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice little bargain. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, why not? Let's go with that. So we kind of come to the next bit, which I must say, when I went to a Thai boxing stadium, when I was there, I felt like I was in The Man with the Golden Gun. It was great.
Really?
That whole thing. And it's like the sumo match in You Only Live Twice, isn't it? It's that same kind of vibe.
Yeah, I like that.
It's good. Now, what do you think about this sequence? It's obviously Miss Anders is sitting there. She's got the bullet. She's been shot, and she's doing the whole. It's like when Henderson dies, isn't it? In your isn't it, where he's just talking, and then
you're right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, and, so he's talking, and then just stops, and then Miss Anders is the same. So I wonder if it is possible for that to happen if you shot somebody to just stop and not move.
Yeah,
I doubt it.
Maybe. It's interesting shot though, because he gets her basically in the heart, in the breast, pretty much, but kind of underneath almost her top. So he must have taken it at an angle. You could get, if Dr. Kaufman was here, he'd know the exact angle of where Scaramanga was sitting, so he could do that shot. Yeah. But yeah, it's quite a cool.
Which does beg the question: is when did Scaramanga shoot her?
Well, she'd obviously have to be sitting down at the thing, and it'd have to be a lot of noise going on when they were cheering the kickboxing.
So does the Golden Gun have a silencer? Because I feel like he'd need a silencer, wouldn't he?
Well, if you think how loud the noise was with the crowd and everything, and imagine if there'd been a big hit and everyone's going, ah, obviously you would still hear it, especially if there was anyone sitting close to it. Yeah. But yeah.
Interesting
one. Yeah.
But I like this scene. I love the fact that Bond kind of like clocks the fact that she's been shot, and then we'll find out that Scaramanga is literally sitting right next to him, and there's that whole kind of
because Bond doesn't know who he is, does he, at that point?
No, absolutely.
Bond's never seen him.
I love the way they play on that, in the sense that nobody knows what Scaramanga looks like. I think that's such a cool angle, and it's and again it's like it's displaying that he's one step ahead all the time, and here he is sitting right next to him. And it's cool. I like the way he kind of like reveals his backstory and stuff. And
this is where you find out all about him, isn't it?
Yeah, which is really nice. And he's like, I discovered I liked killing even more, and all that kind of stuff, which is great.
And do you remember what his only friend was when he was younger?
It was an elephant, wasn't it?
Yeah, African bull elephant. Yeah, who could stand on one leg. His best trick. I thought that was cool. I like that.
Because that's the story, isn't it? Somebody at the circus shoots the elephant.
and
so
then
he then shoots that guy.
And that's how he got into it, and then he got obviously got into shooting a lot more, which is good. But I think obviously the reason that Anders was killed was because she comes after her night with Bond. She goes back to the boat, doesn't she? And Scaramanga's just lying there saying, where have you been? And she's like, oh, it's a double feature. And straight away he knows she's been up to something naughty. So obviously that's why he kills her afterwards. But something we haven't mentioned, which I really like, is Scaramanga's transport. I love that he's got this big Chinese junk, because it's like, you haven't sort of seen that before, and obviously haven't seen it since, but it's quite a cool mode of transport, isn't it? And obviously he needs it to get to the islands, but it's also something that's different. I think it's quite cool.
No, it is cool. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's wicked. So then we have Goodnight being, well, kind of, we have the back and forth with the Solex agitator, ends up in Goodnight's handbag. And then we have that little bit with Knick Knack. And well, before that, there's my favourite bit where he's like, nut.
Yeah, I love
that bit.
Gun and a bag of peanuts.
And then obviously Goodnight being thrown into the boot.
It's a bit similar to Tiffany Case in Diamonds. I know she wasn't thrown into the boot, but she was pushed into the back of Blofeld's car, wasn't she?
That's true, absolutely.
Sort of similar.
Scaramanga wasn't dressed as a woman at this point.
He was not. No, he wasn't. You're right. No, thankfully not. No.
So then we have the car chase sequence. Bond happens into the one car dealership that J.W. Pepper happens to be looking at.
Why would he be buying a car when he's on holiday in Thailand?
Yeah, I don't know. That's another one of those kind of chin scratchers. But
but anyway, we'll let it go. We'll let it
go. So we have, the car being tailed and all that kind of stuff, which leads up to one of the greatest stunts of all time. I think I don't think anyone can argue with that.
No, not true.
Which is obviously the barrel roll jump across the bridge. What a great stunt!
Yeah, well, it's one of the best, probably the best car stunt that's ever been on in cinema, isn't it? I mean, in terms of just visually, one take as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was all worked out on a computer, the angles and everything, and the fact that they make the bridge just look perfect in terms of it just looks like this old bridge that's fell apart, and it's just it's almost as if someone had walked on it, it would have collapsed. They just made it look so perfect in terms of how bad it looked almost.
Do you know what though? I find with this one is that all people ever seem to like talk about these days is the penny
which is what we're going to do, I know we have to mention it.
Of course, and they talk about the penny whistle, which obviously is a mistake, and John Barry himself said the same thing.
That,
like in the special features, there's an interview with him, he says looking back he would have taken it out and had just had complete silence because that was such a high
it would have been the same impact as Spy, pre-credit Spy, where he goes off the cliff, suddenly it goes silent. Imagine that, the build up to the card, and then
imagine if he'd have skied off the cliff and it went
that would have been brilliant.
That would have been great. But old John Bazza, he realizes he messed up with that one and all the rest of it, but whenever this scene comes up, that's all anybody seems to talk about these days is the penny whistle. And it's like, let's not forget how fucking amazing that stunt is, because like penny whistle or not, that is still, to this very day, one of the greatest stunts of all time.
Do you know what I would have loved? Is if they'd taken... I'd love to see that jump again from a different angle, if they'd had more than one camera on it. Maybe they did, but obviously they got it so perfect with that one camera, that's the only one that they use. And obviously it's so quick, even in slow-mo, that you're not going to chop and change. But it would be interesting to see it from an alternative angle as well. But I mean, it is the best. Well, it's the best stunt in that film. It's probably one of the best car stunts ever done, and one of the best stunts in Bond series as well. I think it's fantastic.
It's brilliant. It's great. So then after that, obviously we've got the kind of the car plane, I guess, is is that
and again Scaramanga's sort of hangar, don't they?
Yeah, and I think like a car plane thing, obviously that's like a model that you see in the movie and all the rest of it, but I remember being a kid at school, being like 9 years old and reading books about the future, and it'll be like, by 2010 we'll all be in flying cars. And a flying car has always been that thing, hasn't it? It's always been this thing that we've been told is coming, that we're all going to have one day as a flying car. And like the way they've done that, it kind of looks like it could work, doesn't it? Like if you see those kind of prototype, almost like, have you seen those kind of car planes that are almost like the Acrostar that look like a car with wings? Like it doesn't look silly. Like it works for me.
Do you know what? I'm a huge fan of the car plane. I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic. It's one of the earliest memories that I have of Bond is watching Man with the Golden Gun, and specifically I remember this car plane sequence. I love the fact that they go in the hangar, he presses the button, the wings come on, the dashboard moves down, and the sort of airplane sort of gadgets and altimeter and everything come up. And I think it's I love it. I think it's brilliant. And is this the first time that we see a villain with a sort of gadget type car?
I guess it is. It's I can't think of any other times. Yeah, so I guess
no. So that's something else as well. And I think it's a brilliant concept. And he's like, Nick Nack gets the doors go down and it goes out, and it's just this huge thing. But it does look like it could work. And in fact, I think it was based on a design that I think it did fly, but it also crashed, and they obviously didn't want to use it. So it was based on, it wasn't just pure fantasy. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's, I've got no problem with it at all. For me, it's one of my great things about it. I think it's a lot of fun. And then obviously it goes up. I do quite think it's quite funny as well when Sheriff Pepper's like, "This is my," what does he sort of say? "This is my department," and he's like, "Here's my identification." And then
always there, stay police.
Stay police, yeah. And then they basically handcuff him. I think that's quite funny. I do like him getting arrested by the Thai police.
Yeah, no, that is a good thing, a good little moment. So like, nearing the kind of the climax of the movie now at this point, we cut back to MI6, and there's like a nice little scene with M&Q.
We've got Goodnight opening the boot, haven't we?
That's true.
That was a bit of a, you'd freak yourself out, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
Although the noise, when she sort of says she thinks she stopped, you think the noise would kind of give her a thing. But I think that's a cool little bit. I like the fact that she opens the boot.
Yeah, no, it's a cool little moment. And then so we cut to MI6, and I love the bit where he's like, "Oh, shut up, Q." I love that
because Q says they're working on a car plane as well, which we never get to see, have we?
As a matter of fact, we're working on a flying car, right? "Oh, shut up, Q." Yeah, I love that.
That's a great line. I love that.
It's good cool stuff. So at this point, they basically track where Scaramanga would have flown to on the map and kind of work out where he is, basically. So we cut to kind of Bond in his seaplane.
Yeah.
And basically, funny story about this, they basically found the guy who had the plane and said, "Look, can we rent it off you?" And he said, "Absolutely not." But he was a massive Bond fan. He said, "The only way you can have it is if I can fly the thing."
Serious? So, that's brilliant.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's exactly what you do.
So you got that amazing kind of shot of the shots of the plane kind of flying through all those islands. And
it looks beautiful, doesn't it? So nice.
Having been there and like going through all those islands on the boat, like the video I made, obviously you can see all that of all the different islands. It is such a breathtaking scenery. I mean, it's unlike anywhere I've ever seen. And obviously, because it's in Man with the Golden Gun, it's even better. But it's just amazing going through all those. And I think like in terms of a movie, it's a setting we've never seen really before. By the time that comes out in '74, it's like, wow, what a breathtaking setting. And again, even since, it's still, even to this day, it's one of the locations when we finally get to the island, obviously, that everybody remembers, every Bond fan wants to go to, and it's just a classic setting.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, and I really just wish I lived in Thailand for like almost a year, and I never went down there.
Yeah.
And I do regret that. I'm going to have to go there at some point.
Well, you lived in Bangkok, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I know it's right down south.
So, we did. Yeah, it's like miles and miles away from Bangkok.
It's quite far, but one day I'll get down there. But I mean, it looks amazing, the footage and everything. Bond looks pretty chilled flying the seaplane. Now there is a bit of an interesting scene where we've got, just prior to leaving, there's a guy that shows them a map of where the island is in Chinese waters. Obviously, it's not counted as Thailand. It's somewhere completely different. And then Bond's flying over, and then there's this little outpost and there's some Chinese guys, and they see the plane go past, and they basically ring Scaramanga to let him know that someone's on their way. And just, which is quite cool, because so obviously Scaramanga, and the Chinese, there is a connection there. And I love the line where Scaramanga replies, "No, he won't be leaving." That's really cool, isn't it? Because obviously you know that he's gonna. This is it. He's gonna get Bond now. But the interesting thing is, when Bond does arrive, I mean, it's a little bit further down the line, but there's a subtle line where Scaramanga says that he does his landlords the occasional favour. So basically, he's got this island in Chinese waters. They're letting him stay there. So do you think the occasional favour that he's doing for the Chinese is the odd assassination here and there, or perhaps paying them a fair bit of money, or what do you think that would be?
I guess it must be. I reckon it's his services, isn't it? If he does the occasional favour, he obviously, whoever the Chinese government want taken out, he'll go and do the job for them.
Yeah.
Which is a cool little line. I like that.
That's small cool. Price to pay for your own little island, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But yeah, I think I love this kind of whole sequence and this whole setting. Like, he shows up on the beach in his seaplane, and that thing where Scaramanga says no, he won't be leaving, it's like almost setting up to a full loop to the pre-title sequence where that Rodney shows up on that very same stretch of beach to take Scaramanga on, and now Bond's doing it, so it's like it's set that up perfectly. I think
definitely. I've got a question for you.
Go on.
Okay, so the homing signal that Bond is following was the one that Goodnight put in the boot of Scaramanga's car plane.
Yeah.
And if it's been tracked to that specific island, where is the car plane?
It's a very good point. It's never really mentioned, isn't it?
No. I mean, how would they land it as well? Perhaps it was a car plane boat, and it landed on the water, and they could go along.
Maybe it was a car plane boat. Yeah.
And car plane boat submarine. So it landed, went across the water, then sunk, and then went into a special garage underwater where it could store.
I think there's more to his car plane than meets the eye. Don't you?
Yeah, or maybe he timed it so that he could slow the car plane, like get rid of the wings, and then land in the car and pull a handbrake turn on the beach.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, interesting point. Yeah, good point.
Anyway.
So we get Bond arriving. Immediately, Nick Nack comes out with some champagne or wine or whatever it is. And obviously Scaramanga shoots the cork off.
I love that.
Great. Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. Showing off how good he is in front of Bond. It's just the first time that he knows what's going to happen. I'm just going to show how bloody good I am, and I think that's a great little bit. It's cool.
Yeah, a great example of his skill.
Yeah,
which is great. And then we have a classic sequence of the Bond villain basically whining and dining Bond and showing everything off. Basically,
it is brilliant. Isn't it?
Yeah, but I love how Scaramanga's almost excited to show Bond everything. Do you remember how we were saying how Goldfinger was like teasing Bond with his plan and how excited he was? Scaramanga loves it, doesn't he? He's like, this is the part I really like, and all that kind of stuff. He's really excited to show it to him.
Scaramanga loves it. The one sort of strange thing, well, it's not necessarily strange, but basically Bond has to explain to Scaramanga what all the technological side of it is, because similar to Blofeld, science is not Scaramanga's strong point, and science was not Blofeld's strong suit. So, even though he's got all of this, basically he's sort of inherited it from Halifax Construction Company, didn't they? They built it. So he's purely got it on this island so he can create the electricity and then, sell it off to the highest bidder and basically make even more money, really, isn't it? Yeah. That's what it's about, isn't it? Just make as much money as you can.
There you go.
That's Bond villain rule number 1.
$1 million. Yeah, completely. So that's it. So I guess basically the whole idea is that, he's going to wine and dine Bond, show off everything. He's got the whole kind of Bond villain ego and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things I'm sure he's most proud of is his manservant Kra.
Oh, yeah. He does maintenance and security. Yeah. There's not much security when it's just Nick Nack and him around, although I suppose if the odd challenger turns up, and then maintenance just seems to be checking a few dials.
Getting his clipboard out, ticking off a couple of boxes. It's quite a sweet job, really, isn't it?
Perving over Goodnight, I guess. That's part of the day, isn't it? Who I must say, in the bikini, okay, I know you're a huge fan of Goodnight, and I am as well. I do like her a lot, but if anyone's got a magnificent abdomen, It is good night. It's like she does look pretty.
She
pretty
rocks
tight.
that look, doesn't she?
She definitely does. Yeah.
It's good. She does well with that.
Gets the blood flowing.
Completely.
Yeah.
And again, it's another Bond villain who likes to keep his women in bikinis when they're on his base. You know,
that's it. It's like Tiffany Case all over again, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
no concealed weapons. And stuff like that.
If I was an evil genius, that's probably the kind of thing I'd go for as well. Yeah. Good stuff. So then we get the display of his laser, which is the part he really likes, apparently.
It is, and I think that's great as well because it's an additional weapon, and he calls it "Now I am now undeniably the man with the golden gun." So the solar power is the golden gun, which I really like. The only thing I was a little bit disappointed in is you get a great sound effect of the laser, but you don't see it visually. It cuts to like the plane exploding, and even if they used the same laser in Goldfinger, all they needed was an optical beam, and it just would have given it that little bit more. It's only a small thing, but apparently I think they ran out of funding or something like that, or there was some sort of issue, wasn't there?
I mean, considering that sequence in Diamonds Are Forever where all the rockets blow up and all that kind of stuff, and how kind of cheap a lot of that looks, I feel like they could have done something, surely. But
but there
you go. I've never made a movie, and I wasn't alive in 1974, so maybe things were a bit different in those days. But there we go. So then we see what is one of the most iconic scenes, which is the mushroom-shaped rock with the kind of the dish on the top. I mean, that is like, again, that's such an iconic.
What was it
thing.
like to see that mushroom-shaped rock? What was it like?
It was like when I got off the boat at the jetty, and I kind of like the first thing you see is kind of like a wall of these little huts with all the tacky souvenirs for sale.
So you didn't come on that side then, side with the mushroom. You come in the other side.
You come on the opposite. So like when Rodney's walking up that beach, it's like if he kept walking, he'd walk through those shacks, and then the jetty's on the other side.
Okay, I see.
So you come, and then as you walk around the corner, the first thing you see is the kind of leaning rock that's like Scaramanga's front door. Yeah. And then you walk around it, and then there's the beach, and then there's just the rock just looking at you, and it's just like, oh man,
that must have been amazing.
It is such like it just, and obviously it looks identical to what it looks in the movie. And there's two like vantage points. When you're standing on the beach, you see it right there, obviously. Yeah. And then as you walk up some steps around the corner to go to the other beach, there's like a little platform, and you see it from another angle, which is where they would have shot in the movie, where they see where the kind of the dish comes out and kind of opens up. That's the angle that you see. And it's almost like looking at it. The way they set it up is that you're looking at it from a window in Scaramanga's base, but it must have been at the top of these stairs. But yeah, man, what a visually.
I want to watch your video again. I'm going to watch your video again.
I want to watch it again, actually. But yeah, I mean,
we'll stick it on Facebook again.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we should, shouldn't we? Actually, to tie in with this. But yeah, I mean, what a visually stunning thing! Everybody remembers it. It's iconic. Yeah. Everybody remembers that place. Like, even if they haven't really seen the film, for some reason they know that exists anyway, and they still kind of know it. But yeah, good stuff. So then we kind of we get to the kind of climax where Scaramanga challenges him to a duel, mano a mano. My golden gun versus your ball, the PPK.
6 bullets to the one.
I only need one.
Yeah, nice.
Which is interesting. Now, watching the special features, there was basically a lot of footage was cut out of this sequence, right?
Which is a shame. I don't. Why is that? Because Man with the Golden Gun, it's 2 hours long. There's a lot of Bond films that have been a lot longer than that, and even generally, like even if it's 2 or 3 more minutes longer than that, I wonder why they cut this out. Because I've heard a lot of stuff.
I can kind of see why they did it. So basically, what it was they do the whole back-to-back thing. Nick Nack counts it off. And then what you're supposed to see, what you were seeing, what they did shoot, and apparently they used some of this footage in the trailer, the original trailer, is you see Scaramanga run off and hide behind a rock. Yeah. And then Bond turns around and shoots. And then he kind of like suspects that he's hiding behind a rock somewhere. And there's this whole sequence where Bond kind of gets, I think it's a bottle or some sort of canister.
A thermos or something, isn't it?
Something like that. And he ends up like basically throwing it. He suspects he's behind this rock, so he throws it up in the air, and Scaramanga shoots the canister. And then, so Bond obviously knows he's hiding and all that kind of stuff. But crucially, as part of that sequence, Scaramanga was a bit of a cheater because he has a second golden bullet that he then loads up, and then the sequence kind of plays out as it did before. Yeah. So for me, I feel like that kind of cheapens it a little bit because it's like, A, you see him run and hide behind the rock. That takes
that
the
would have been a
mystery
bit,
away. And B, having a second bullet kind of cheapens his skill level because it's like he's the man that only needs one bullet.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of degrades Scaramanga having that sequence. So I can kind of understand why they would do that.
Yeah, no, I think there were a few other things around the final battle which would have extended it and made it a bit better. But I do agree that, I mean, I definitely seeing him hide behind the rock wouldn't have worked. And I think the second bullet was going to be behind the buckle in his belt, and that was where he kept it. But I agree. I think it's better not to have that. I think just keep him as a one bullet man, and the fact that he's so arrogant, he wouldn't want a second bullet himself, would he?
Yeah.
He thinks of himself as the best in the world. So why would he need another one?
I think the fact that Bond turns around, shoots, and he's not there.
Yeah.
And it's again that elevates Scaramanga's status in the sense that we don't know where he's gone, and it's like again he's one step ahead. Yeah. So I think the way they probably did play it out works. I think
definitely that sounds good. So then basically Knick Knack comes along, doesn't he? And I've never killed a midget before, and and that's quite a nice little bit. And basically, if you kill him, this be mine. Or come on, you can do Knick Knack.
If you kill him, this be mine.
That's so much better. That's brilliant.
Roger does a brilliant impression of him though. Like
he does.
On his commentary, he's doing impressions of Knick Knack left, right, and centre.
He does like a bit of Hervé, doesn't he? Yeah. Well, Knick Knack's speech on the beach I thought was brilliant initially, and then he obviously tells Bond at this point, head that way and go and find him, sort of thing. And then I love that bit where you just see Knick Knack running in. He's running up his little spiral staircase into his control room, and he gets his chair to raise up and look through. And I just love that bit. I love the fact that he's behind it all with all the controls. Yeah. I think it's a brilliant idea. That.
I love the whole you only have 3 bullets left.
Yeah, he's counting kind of Bond. Yeah, that's it. And he's keeping his eye on him, isn't he? Watching him all do the moves and stuff like that. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
I thought the music is really good here as well because as soon as Bond enters, it starts to get quite tense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you never see Scaramanga until the end. Which is one thing where I wasn't sure whether that you should see him or not. But I think maybe it works better if you just stay with Bond and you just don't know where Scaramanga is. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's it elevates the mystery and the tension because you don't know where he is, and you've seen this sequence before at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you know what's in store, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I feel it's like Scaramanga's more powerful. It's like Batman when Batman just disappears. It's like, where's he gone?
Yeah.
Whereas if you saw him running around all the time, it would kind of cheapen it a little bit.
Yeah.
But so we've got the kind of whole sequence of Bond going through the whole funhouse thing, and then the kind of the climax of the movie. What do you think?
He finds the end of the set, doesn't he? He kind of hits that glass partition type thing, which is like the outskirt of the set, and basically realizes he sort of climbs down this sort of scaffolding that's holding it up, and then he loses his Walther and it clatters down into darkness like hundreds of feet below.
Yeah,
and I wonder where he was going after that, or where he was planning to go. I guess he was having a look around, wasn't he? And that's basically. Then we cut from that to Scaramanga, don't we? So that's the first time we cut back to Scaramanga, and you can see him looking. We catch a view of the mannequin, and the fingers have been blown off. You know it's a mannequin, and he's just looking, and then he steps inside behind a screen, sort of thing, and then steps out, and then we see the mannequin come into shot. Now Bond would have had to be pretty swift to have swapped places in the space of however long it was.
He would have had to have been pretty quick, mustn't he?
Yeah. But then he is Bond, so...
Well, there you go. I mean, I like the fact that I like the fact that he just dispatches Scaramanga with one shot. I feel like that's a poignant ending.
Yeah. Had to be one. And right in the heart as well. Yeah, it's funny because Scaramanga always shoots people in the head, and Bond seems to shoot him in the heart.
Yeah. I think it's a good. I think like the whole mano a mano thing, two equally skilled kind of people going head to head. I think it's cool. I think it works well.
Yeah. Well, the thing with this battle is they couldn't they couldn't engage with each other within the battle because basically whoever saw the other first is going to kill them with one shot.
Yeah.
So it's not like they could have fisticuffs or see each other and then run and hide. It was basically so there was limited scope in terms of having them together. So aside from moving through the funhouse or hiding here or moving there, you couldn't do a lot more with it. So part of me wanted that whole battle to be a little bit longer, but I can't see how they could have done a lot more than what they did.
It had to be a pistol fight, didn't it? And the fact that he's only got one bullet, you couldn't really do much more than they did with it.
No,
I think it works well.
Yeah.
And then we have the obligatory base blows up sequence.
Yeah, it's a good line as well when he says Scaramanga's flat on his coup de grace. I like that, and he says it with a bit of like completely dead, it's serious, which is quite nice. I thought,
which is a rarity for old Rod.
Yeah, it is.
But then, obviously, a Good Night has spanned Cra around the back of the head, and he falls into the big tub, which obviously sets off a chain reaction to blow up the entire island.
I love the 60s Batman sort of massive absolute zero must be maintained sign. It's like a 30 foot wide or whatever.
Yeah,
it's quite good.
So Cra's bit in the dust.
Yeah,
and I love the way how he's like explaining to Goodnight how because now that's happened, the whole base is going to explode. And she's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." So you get the whole sequence where he's trying to get the Solex out of the thing. They could afford a laser for this bit, couldn't they?
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. But it's quite a good scene. That I think it's quite tense because you got the cloud moving past the sun.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got the beam that comes down and nearly catches Rog, and then he tells Goodnight, and she's trying to fumble with stuff. And she, again, is showing a bit of her character's ineptitude. She uses her bum and suddenly that opens it and then doesn't know what button she's pressing. The cloud passes the sun.
Doesn't Tiffany Case's bum do something in Diamonds Are Forever as well?
Well, it's hiding the cassette case, isn't it? The marching tape, which is...
She doesn't press a button with it or anything?
Showing a bit more cheek than usual. Yeah. I'm not sure she does.
Maybe not.
No, but it's a similar sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is, well, it is what it is, I guess. And then, obviously, Goodnight's trying to press a button. The cloud comes over and Bond and her both think that she sort of stopped it. But it's good. The music's quite tense. You can see the sun's coming around again. It's about to get past the cloud. And then Bond is obviously trying his hardest. And then he finally gets the Solex out just as the sun appears. And then the beam's still there. Now, do you think it's strange that the beam is there even though the Solex has been taken out or not?
It's a good point. Something that I hadn't previously considered. I think, I don't know. I guess you just have is another one of those things you just got to go with.
Well, my logic behind that is that the mushroom shape, the sort of metal reflector dish is reflecting the sun, which is creating the beam. So that's just purely the sun's beam, which no matter what was going to go down there. Yeah. And then the Solex agitator was going to convert that into electricity. So that beam would have been there with or without it. I remember when I was young thinking, well, how does that work if he's taking out the Solex? But I think that was always going to happen.
That's a good point, yeah.
And the fact that he's taken it out means that it can't then be converted.
Well, I suppose the energy of the sun is interesting because, like, it happens strikingly regularly, actually, in the sense that, say, somebody has like a bottle of like a glass bottle in their windowsill or something, and the sun gets to a certain angle and it magnifies through the bottle. Like people's houses have burnt down because of that. Like the ray of the sun kind of heats up a bedspread or something like that, and it ends up causing a fire. So, like as kind of far fetched as the technology is, I like the logic of it kind of tends to work. If you can harness that power with a massive dish, I'm sure you could cause that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
There's our kind of top level scientific knowledge applied to this podcast once again. I'm sure you could filter the sun down into a laser beam, Chris. Yeah, I'm sure that's pretty possible, actually. Yeah. Have you heard about them fires? Anyway, one thing that is definitely of note is that final set inside as it's kind of blowing up and stuff. Like half of that is miniature and half of it is the kind of full size, and like that's good old Derek Meddings. Now that miniature is so good, like you just cannot tell the difference. Like if you took two screenshots either side, like that miniature looks perfect. Like, I don't think you get any better than that. So
he
that's
was a
an
legend
interesting
for
little
miniatures, wasn't he?
Definitely, yeah. So that's a good thing to do next time you watch it, is just keep your eye on
Yeah.
that set and see if you can spot which one's the miniature and which one isn't. Because I mean, obviously, the scenes that are the miniature don't have any actors in it, whereas the ones that are full size, obviously, you'll see Kral walking around in the background or whatever. So you kind of because of that. But to look at, it's perfect.
Well done, Derek. Good job.
Yeah,
good job.
Good old Derek.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the Chinese junk. That's Bond's escape thing. That's taking Scaramanga's boat, and we have the patented. Somebody comes back at the end to have a little fight with Bond, and we have
like Teehee, wasn't
it? Indeed. And I love this bit. I love all those little hidden trapdoors and stuff, and I just love how mischievous Nick Nack is. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's got his little knife in his teeth, and he's going on, and then obviously he drops down on the bed. I kill you, and then he's like just hides behind under the sofa. Bond thinks he's getting him, and then he comes back and pushes him over, and then gets up, and he's got the wine bottles, isn't he? I think it's a great little scene. This
I love that little sequence. How like funny and sort of ridiculous it is, but at the same time, it's really memorable, and I love it. You know,
and bottles flying everywhere. Now, one of our friends, a close friend of ours, would say it would be heretical not to point out the fact that with every bottle that is thrown by Nick Nack, there's no wine that then gets spilled out of it, because it's obviously sugar glass bottle.
It's just empty glass shards flying around. There's no water,
which they couldn't do because of obviously sugar glass wouldn't hold. It's not strong enough to hold it. But anyway, he would have a go if we didn't say that. But but no, I think it's a fun little bit, and then obviously get the suitcase, putting him in it, and Goodnight thinks basically that he's chucked him overboard, and I may be small, but I never forget. And then he puts him in the
out, you big bully.
And then he puts him in. Well, we don't actually see that until the very end, do we? And then he goes back in, and then the glass. Hopefully, Goodnight's gotten the glass out of the bed, and they get back to it. And then a rather strange thing happened. The phone pops up.
And that is a funny one, isn't it?
And M's got a direct line to Scaramanga's private phone number on a joke, as you would. You know, he's probably just checked the phone. He's probably in the phone book, isn't he? Back then, he's Scaramanga Island number
S.
1.
Okay, Scaramanga. That's his phone number. Brilliant. Yeah, that's really what it's going to be.
Pretty much, yeah.
But and again, one of my favourite lines is "Good night, good night." She's just coming, sir. Which of course she would be, being in bed with Roger Moore.
She would indeed. Yeah. And then good night, good night. Good night, sir. I like that. That's class. Yeah.
And I tell you what I really like is that kind of end shot where you get the wide shot of the boat and you see, it starts off with Nick Nack in the basket hanging from the crow's nest and then just panning out. And it's like, man, I wonder how many hours that poor little fucker had to spend in that basket, like hanging up there. He must have been up there for ages to get that shot.
Yeah, probably. That's why he looks so upset, I think.
Yeah, no wonder. It was a great performance. Didn't really need to act there. But there we go. So
there we are. Man with the Golden Gun reviewed.
There it is, in the bag. So you rated this as Roger's worst film, didn't you? Or least good, we should say. At the beginning when we started these podcasts. Has that changed?
Do you know what? I'm happy to say it has.
Oh, nice.
I went in with fresh eyes. I was like, right, I'm not going to think about all the little silly things which I sort of know about. I'm just going to watch it. And what I found was I had so much fun watching this film. I really enjoyed it. I mean, you know, I've mentioned one or two little things which still bug me a little bit, but I was able to gloss over that. And I just really enjoyed it. I love Scaramanga. I think he's one of the best villains in the series. I love Nick Nack. I think some of the dialogue is the best in the series. I think it's clever. There's some twists in it. There's lots of good humour in it. And for me, it is quite fantastical. You've got this island in the middle of nowhere. You know, I love the Golden Gun as well. That's so good as well. And it's one that just, I could happily just sit down. I could watch it again tomorrow and be more than happy to watch that again. I just found it really good fun. It has got its weak moments, definitely, but I think I was slating it too hard previously. Well, you know, everyone's opinion changes about the films as they go on. At the moment, for me, although obviously we haven't got the rest, we've still got a lot more to sort of go through. For me, it's comfortable where at the moment now. It's definitely
it's up there.
It's definitely improved. It's definitely improved, shall we say?
Well, I would say for me, it's different in the sense that I really liked it before I watched it anyway. I was always a big fan of this movie. I think it has a lot going for it. Some truly iconic stuff in this one, with the setting at the end with James Bond Island. The Golden Gun itself is iconic. There's a ton of good stuff in this.
The car plane,
the barrel roll, obviously.
There's
so much when you actually sort of lay it all out. There's a huge amount of truly iconic stuff and great. There might be a couple of chin scratching moments, but the Bond films that don't have at least a couple of chin scratching moments are few and far between.
Yeah, of course.
So for me, it's right up there. Live and Let Die, still my favorite Roger Bond. This is pretty much close behind it, I think, at this point. I think for me, at this point, and I'm hoping this changes because I'm liking going through them again with fresh eyes and stuff, and I hope I rediscover some things that I didn't realise before or whatever. And I think that's going to happen with A View to a Kill, actually. The more I think about that movie, the more I think I'm going to come around to that one. But I think for me at the moment, it's Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun in second place, or perhaps joint second with, I don't know, Spy is really good, man. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I remember a while ago, you told me your favourite Rogers, and they were basically in order. So your first was Live and Let Die, then Man with the Golden Gun, Spy, Moonraker, and so on. Yeah. So it'll be interesting as we review them to see how that changes. Yeah. But for me, I'd still put Live and Let Die above Man with the Golden Gun. I think it's got a bit more going for it. But overall, I think Man with the Golden Gun is a great watch. It's really good fun. I think it's a Bond that you just have to go. You just go with it. You just let yourself go and you go with it.
The thing with that is, with every Bond film, once you hit You Only Live Twice, not so much with Majesties, but with you, as soon as you hit You Only Live Twice, you have to do that, and you just go with, you can't ask questions well, how much did it cost to hollow out that volcano? Do you know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff, because you just can't. And it's just is what it is with this flavour of Bond. Typically if you go to the real hardcore Fleming movies like Majesties or the first four, for example, you don't perhaps have to ask those questions, but with the majority of the others, you just have to kind of ignore those things. But I think this is a great film. I think it gets a hard rap. A lot of people, I think it was a tweet, I can't remember who tweeted, but I tweeted out that, I've just finished watching Man with the Golden Gun for this Friday's podcast, and somebody tweeted back and was like, oh, poor you, that must have been horrible. And it's I think that's an unfair sort of review of it. I think it's a great one.
Yeah, I did have feelings along those lines before, but now, it's just a case of it's just a fun watch. Here's an interesting one. Then, how would you rate it from the films we've reviewed so far? And that's going to be quite tricky because obviously we've gone through some classics.
That is a tough one. I would say, so Majesties is in number one.
Yeah.
I would say Dr. No from Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball kind of follows, not perhaps in that order, but that's the next kind of, next four movies. I would rate it above Diamonds, without a doubt.
I would, without a doubt, yeah.
I might even rate it above You Only Live Twice, Yeah. I might even do that because, I think... what's You Only Live Twice got going for it? Okay, so it's got that amazing set, the hollowed out volcano, that's amazing. It's got Little Nelly, that's some iconic stuff.
Little Nelly,
it's got the ninjas. You Only Live Twice is a great film, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I would want to sit down and watch, I would probably watch Man with the Golden Gun before I'd watch You Only Live Twice.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because obviously for me, I'd definitely put it above Diamonds. I'd definitely put it below Live and Let Die. See, occasionally I can think of You Only Live Twice as a classic and one of the best. It depends on what mood I'm in. So overall, I would, for the times when it has been at that level, I would put it above Man with the Golden Gun. But at the moment, the way I'm feeling, I'd be happy to watch either or in terms of sort of enjoyment level. I think they're quite similar in the vibe that they go for, in the slightly fantasy sort of thing and stuff. I think maybe they are a bit similar. I'm not sure, but yeah, no, I'd definitely put it above Diamonds anyway. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So solid film, I think.
Solid movie,
but
yeah.
I'm really happy. Sorry, I'm really happy that it's for me. I've just enjoyed it more than I thought I would, which is quite cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's the joy of doing this and reviewing these movies with fresh eyes, because it's like I'm excited to, like I say, the late Roger period is some movies I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm excited to see if some of those kind of like are resurrected for me, and all that kind of stuff. That's going to be good. Cool. I'm excited.
Yeah,
so it's time for some Bond facts, Chris.
Bond facts: flames, explosion, fire. Bond facts. Okay, here we are, Bond facts for today. Bond fact number 1. After initially considering Iran, The Man with the Golden Gun was originally intended to be the 6th entry in the Bond series and was to be shot in Cambodia, with Roger Moore considered to fill Sean Connery's shoes.
So that would have been instead of Diamonds Are Forever, wouldn't it?
It would have been, yeah. It would have been instead of Majesty, sorry. Before Majesties.
Sorry, that's right.
However, because obviously the Vietnam War, it caused producers to change plans and pick Majesties as the 6th Bond film instead. So Bond fact number 2. Now, this is interesting where the name Scaramanga's come from, because I've got 2 sources here. So the source of the name Scaramanga could apparently be from a man called Pandya Scaramanga, who Ian Fleming had stayed at his house on the island of Hydra in the Greek Isles, and he reportedly sought permission to use his name. But also, apparently in the special features, Christopher Lee said that Fleming had told him that Scaramanga was a kid at Eton who he couldn't stand, and obviously wanted to make the baddie. So it could be one of potentially 2 people that we know of so far.
It's funny, you just don't know with stories like that, do you? Obviously Christopher Lee's Ian Fleming's cousin, so they must have had some kind of relationship. But, memories kind of distort over time. So it's tricky to know exactly where that's come from. So
it is a
maybe we can track down the Scaramanga kid from Eton and ask him. Yeah. Did you and Fleming get along well at school?
Yeah. It's like the Goldfinger guy who he hated, the architect. That's why he used Goldfinger, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bond fact number 3. In earlier versions of the script, the character of Nick Nack was originally called Demi Tass. And High Fat had a business partner called Low Fat, a character which was scrapped. Thankfully so.
Yeah, I'm glad they did that. Yeah.
That's
it's like Fook You and Fook Me, isn't it? Yeah.
And Demi Tass, what do you think of that? Nick Nack, Demi Tass.
I don't know what that means. What does
like Demi Tass is kind of half. Is it like half pint sort of thing?
Oh, of course.
Demi is half, isn't it? I think so. It's equivalent of what we'd call someone half pint sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, but, they did. It was better with Nick Nack.
Bond fact number 4: Jack Palance was originally approached to play Scaramanga, but he declined.
I could see that happening. He's got a similar level of like that imposing kind of figure that Christopher Lee's got.
I think he definitely would have made a good Scaramanga. Because Lee's ingrained to Scaramanga, it's hard to picture anyone that could be close or better than him. But I think Jack Palance would have been pretty good. Bond fact number 5, director Guy Hamilton, actually this is something you stated earlier, mentioned that Nick Nack was intended to be a miniature version of Oddjob. That's why he wear the black bowler style hats and stuff. Mm-hmm. Bond fact number 6, during the funhouse scenes, this is something else we mentioned as well about the cowboy dummy that looked quite similar to Roger Moore, but we now know that was his stunt double, which is quite interesting. Bond fact number 7, during the belly dancer scene, which happened to be the last scene that was filmed, Roger Moore was wearing a brand new suit. Now, when the scene is finished, as a gag, Cubby Broccoli got on a ladder and poured a bucket of paste all over Roger Moore's new suit.
He talks about that in his commentary as well, because he had his eye on it. He wanted to keep it after the production finished, and Cubby knew that, so he was like, right, I'm gonna get him.
That's quite funny though, because they had a good relationship, didn't they, Cubby and Roger? Good sort of friendly, sort of trying to get one over each other, I think. Bond fact number 8: while they were filming the boat chase on the Klongs, Roger Moore fell in twice. The first time was on purpose because they told him not to do it, being Roger did. And the second time was by accident. Now, on the second time that he fell in, Roger Moore made the mistake of opening his eyes underwater and seeing what the local undertakers did with bodies of the less fortunate. So basically, he opened his eyes and saw a dead body next to him in the Klong.
Yeah. How must that have bbeen?
Yeah, I mean, scary, and obviously they're really polluted, aren't they? So they're quite dangerous sort of
But they
places.
said that they made it clear that like if you fall in the water, don't lick your lips or anything because it's so polluted you'll end up with like I think it's diphtheria or something they were worried about. And luckily he said he knew to keep his mouth shut and nothing happened to him. He didn't breathe any water in or anything, so he was good on that front. But imagine that being underwater and seeing all the dead bodies just hanging out there. That must have been really creepy. Not nice at all. Not good at all. Bond fact number 9: a scene had been written. This is interesting actually. A scene had been written with Q at Hong Kong airport, trying to persuade Bond to use a gadget-laden camera on his trip to Thailand, and being forced to admit that the only thing that it couldn't do was take photographs. So here we've got two things which are quite similar to later Bond films. So we've got Q at an airport, like Tomorrow Never Dies, and then got Q giving him a camera, like License to Kill. So maybe those ideas, they always have ideas which they use in later Bond films, and that was probably one of the ones there. Fun fact number 10, James Bond kills only one person in this film, which is obviously Francisco Scaramanga, and the total body count of only 6 people and James Bond's single kill are the lowest in the James Bond series to date. So that's not a lot. If you think about Bond going around the stealth ship in Tomorrow Never Dies, blast them all with machine guns, it's a little bit different, isn't it? But there we go. And finally, Bond fact number 11, The Man with the Golden Gun was the first James Bond film to be shown at the Kremlin. Apparently, when the movie had finished, one Russian official turned around and said, "We didn't train him very well, did we?" As in, obviously, Scaramanga. Right. Yeah, because Scaramanga was meant to have been trained by the KGB. Yeah.
KGB. There we go. So there we go. Bond facts for today.
There we go. So let's do some Bond trivia.
Bond trivia. So
we don't get an explosion for Bond trivia. It's just Bond trivia, and that's it. So I went first, didn't I? So let me lay it back on you and see how you do. So my question of the day is: can you name all of the components of the Golden Gun?
Now I wish I had mine still with me because it was epic. But I'll go through and see if I can remember. So we've got the pen as the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the cigarette case. We've got the cigarette lighter as a handle. We've obviously got a golden bullet that goes in. Or is it the cigarette case as a handle? Sorry,
that's right.
The cigarette lighter is kind of like the stock where the bullet goes into. The pen is the barrel, and then we've got a cufflink which is used as the trigger. So we've got cigarette case, cigarette lighter, pen, cufflink, bullet. I think that's it.
Christopher Wright, you win £1,000. Well done.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Good stuff. Well done. Yeah. That was good. You got it.
Do you know what was interesting though? When I had the gun, is the cufflink basically had. I don't know if this. I think this because the prop that I had is meant to be an exact replica. Now the cufflink had a massive long screw that you had to place into the cigarette lighter on the underneath of it and turn it and turn it and turn it and turn it. So in real life, actually putting the gun together, the cufflink would have been an absolute nightmare to do up properly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, if it had been made properly as a weapon, you'd want something just to clip in and ready to fire straight away. But I think they had different versions of the Golden Gun while filming. I think they had solid versions, which didn't come apart at all. And then they obviously had some where the components could fit together and stuff.
Interesting. Cool stuff.
There we are. Okay, so my Bond trivia for today, and I think you will get this now. How many bullets does Bond fire in his final showdown with Scaramanga?
So there's one initially when he turns around for the beach duel and Scaramanga's not there. Right. There's one where he shoots the screen with Scaramanga's face on.
Why did that screen not break?
Don't know. It's a good question.
Maybe he's got blanks.
There's one when he's underneath climbing through the scaffolding and he drops the gun. And
it doesn't go off then.
It doesn't go off. Okay. That's right. It doesn't, thinking about it now.
It just clatters.
And then so he says you only have 3 bullets left, which means he's fired 3.
Do you remember where the third one was?
I can't remember where the third
one was. If I do this, does it help?
Oh, of course, yeah, the cowboy.
Yeah, that's right.
And then
so they're the first three, and then
there's one more when he kills Scaramanga
yeah, but with a different gun.
with a different gun.
Yes, nice one, Tom's
Cool.
cleared. £1,000 coming back your way.
Beautiful, and that worked out well. Good stuff.
Yeah, it did. There we go.
So,
Nice.
so there's our Bond trivia out of the way. So it's time for the
Bond. James Bond.
It's the guess the quote round.
Woo! Yeah. Woo-hoo.
So it was your quote last time.
It was
wasn't
my go. Yes, it was indeed. Now, I think you got this straight away last time, and I think quite a few of our listeners did as well. So my quote from last podcast was, "Consider him slimed."
It's a good one. Good performance as well.
Oh, thanks, man.
That would be Henry Gupta in Tomorrow Never Dies.
You got the film absolutely right, but not the character.
It's Mickey G, isn't it?
It is. It's Mickey G. Yeah, Michael G. Wilson.
Of course, it is.
Yeah, he's on one of the screens. I think his character's called Tom Wallace in it. But he's on one of the screens, and Gupta's saying about the president whatever, and then Michael G. Wilson consider him slime. Yeah, Mickey
that's
G,
it, isn't it? Yeah.
Mickey G.
Nice, good stuff. I don't know why I heard it is Gupta, but yeah. Anyway,
You knew the scene though.
I certainly did. Okay, so I've got a quote for you this week, Chris. Are you ready for it?
Okay, I am.
And I as funny as it is, I think you will get this. As funny as it is. So hold on.
Okay.
Let me just take a sip of water.
Prepare yourself. Okay, here we go. I'm excited already.
No!
Can you do that again? Sorry.
Yeah. No! Any ideas?
I don't know yet. Can you do it one more time?
I'll do it one more time.
Sorry. Okay.
Maybe my prefer, because if I could do it at full volume, obviously it's pretty late here and people.
Okay, so it's proper loud.
So
Okay.
it's proper no.
Okay. I'll have to. I haven't got it straight away, so I have to have a good think about it. I was expecting a Bond, James.
My name is Bond. Yeah. There you go.
Cool. Okay, I like it. It's good.
Good stuff.
And do we have any new listener quotes for this?
Well, we had some last week. We had Ben Cherry, who we've already answered that, haven't we? But we'll go through because he was kind enough to send a follow up message. So let's listen to Ben Cherry's quote from last week.
Hey, Al, wherever you are, don't hold it against me.
And as we mentioned earlier on in the review of Man with the Golden Gun, we already got that, didn't we? So it's it's Rodney at the beginning of that. So let's listen to Ben's follow up message now.
Hey guys, it's Ben here again with the answer to my guess the quote. The character's name is Rodney, and he appears in the pre-title sequence to The Man with the Golden Gun. As he's being led around Scaramanga's funhouse, 2 doors swing open and Al Capone and his mobsters are stood there. Rodney fires his gun and Al's arms fall off, which leads to the quote. Anyway, keep up the excellent work, guys. I love the podcast every couple of weeks. It's brilliant listening to on the way to work. And I'll keep in touch. Cheers. Bye for now.
Okay, good stuff. We got it right. We can be proud of ourselves, Chris. We did it. We did well.
It's a good quote. Good quote.
Now, we also, if you remember, we had a message from Michael Kerwin last week, who posed us the question about Pierce Brosnan's hometown and Rosa Clare versus
do you remember?
Erma Bunt.
Do you remember Pierce Brosnan's? Drogheda, yeah.
Drogheda, that was it, yeah. Yes. And he also gave us a quote as well. So let's listen to what his quote was.
Johnny, what have you done with it?
Okay, now this one stumped me a little bit. I still don't know what it is. But I think you've got it, haven't you?
Well, I've got an idea. I definitely know the setting. I can picture it. I just can't remember if it's in one of 2 films, but I think I've got no idea.
By his performance, Johnny, what have you done with it? It strikes me that it must be an old film.
Yes, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's hear what it is.
Hi guys, this is Michael Kerwin here, leaving you the answer to last week's quote I left. And the answer is the hotel receptionist in Dr. No. When Bond comes in and he's asking for the keys to his room, she tells Bond that he has a message, and she asks Johnny to get it for him. So that's the quote I left. that's the answer to it. Again, guys, keep up the great work. Bye.
Okay, so there it was. So did you get that?
I knew it was a hotel receptionist, yeah, but I think I was actually really that the delivery was rather good. I thought
it was good, wasn't it? Yeah,
yeah.
It was
Well
an
done to
excellent
Michael.
performance. Well done, Michael. Now, in actual fact, Michael immediately telephoned or speak piped after the Spectre teaser came out, and he left his thoughts on the Spectre teaser, which actually did make me laugh. They were very funny. So let's hear it from Michael again one last time, and hear his thoughts on Spectre.
Oh my god, that was the greatest trailer I've ever seen in my entire life. This is Michael Kerwin here, just leaving a quick voicemail for my reactions to the James Bond Spectre trailer. It was so good. That was one of the best trailers I've ever seen in my life. And for all the people who say the Star Wars trailer was one of the greatest trailers ever, bullshit. That was the greatest trailer I've ever seen, ever. All the little hints and teases of Blofeld, of Oberhauser, of the Spectre ring, Mr. White, the "you're only a kite in a hurricane" line. That was just so unbelievable. And then the scene with Monica Bellucci, and then the Lamborghini coming in, and then there's just so much great things about that trailer. I cannot believe we're getting this film in just a few months. It's going to be absolutely unreal. I just can't wait to see it, and I'm unsure if I'm going to watch the full trailer or not, but this is a great time to be a Bond fan, and I just can't believe we got this trailer. Thanks again, Tom and Chris. Bye.
So there we go. Michael, I think, is he as excited as us, do you think? I don't know.
I think he's on the same sort of level, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good on you, Michael. Thanks for your messages. Okay, so we've got a new quote this time. This one came in a while ago, actually, and it kind of sort of just fell out of the radar a little bit, but I dug it out,
Nice.
Which is from Daniel Martins, who sent us a quote.
Daniel.
So let's have a listen to that now.
Hello again, gentlemen. Your old pal, Daniel, calling back from Winnipeg, Canada. I know Chris put a call out last podcast for some new voices calling in, and I have called once before, but I was watching a Bond last night, as you so often do, and a quote just jumped out at me that I thought would be a pretty good one for Guess the Quote. So I figured I'd call back anyway, and here goes. Marginal quality from dubious sources. So there you go. It's a little bit embarrassing calling in with a Canadian accent, trying to impersonate certain Bond characters. So I hope I didn't do too badly. I'll give it to you one more time. Marginal quality from dubious sources. All right. Good luck, and I'll call back and let you know where that's from. Keep up the good work.
Okay, so how do you feel about that one, Chris? Do you think you got it?
Well, I think so, yeah. But it's again another good delivery as well. These are good. These are getting good. This is a good one as well. I think it's one that might stump a few people, but yeah, no, I think I definitely.
You're confident.
Yeah, I'm confident.
You're confident. Good stuff. Okay, so that's all for the Guess the Quote round this week. Next up, it's time for Guess the Music Cue.
I can't help but headbutt to that. It's good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little tune.
Head swing, rather.
Yeah, it's nice. So let's hear what we had last time. Okay, I'm confident I got that one.
What do you think it is?
I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to say that was the very sad but iconic death of Aki.
Yes, it was indeed, and you only have twice. Nice answer, Tom.
Yeah,
so I think quite a few people got this. I think Sean O'Hare, Matthew Grice, the usuals, and
the usual crowd. Yeah,
usual suspects. But no, it's a good one. I know it wasn't the hardest one, but the music is beautiful, and the scene is amazing as well. So yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well done to everyone that got that.
Good stuff.
And now should we play the new music cue for this week?
Let's do the new one. Let's hear it.
Okay. So, what do you think of that?
I'm not 100%. I know it's going to be David Arnold. I can just feel the David Arnoldness. I think it's either Quantum or Skyfall. But I'm not sure. But I'm going to give it some more thought.
Okay, you could be right. There is just one thing, though.
Go on.
There's two different composers for those films.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
There is indeed. So maybe it is David Arnold or maybe it isn't. So I take it back.
Yeah.
But I've always said the Skyfall score might as well have been done by David Arnold because it sounds David Arnold-y. So there you go.
Indeed. Yeah, there we go.
All right, good stuff. So next up in our little game show segment, this is building out to be quite the fun game show, isn't it? At the end of every episode, I like it. Which is the complete
the
lyric
section.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I know I stumped you with my one last time, and I think you had some trouble with it. Because it was very difficult.
It was a great choice.
It was. So I'm gonna rock it out again.
Okay, here we go.
Now, in your answer, obviously the goal with this one is that you do the following line of the song.
Yep.
And what you must do is do it in the correct accent as well. That is my one stipulation of this. Okay, so my lyric is: They're looking for the cat that swallowed the rat. Now, first of all, do you know what film that's from?
I'd say that's possibly Dr. No.
You'd be
They're
right.
looking for the cat that swallowed the rat. The something to the three blind mice. You know, what's the bit before it?
It's such a groovy little tune. I love that.
The cat that swallowed the rat. The something attitude. Three blind mice. Is it something?
Yeah.
Oh. Wait. Oh, three blind mice. Wait, what was it? Looking for
three blind mice. Here they go. Three blind mice.
The cat that swallowed the rat. They won't do the attitude. Something attitude.
Oh, you're so close.
Is it? They won't do the. They won't follow the attitude of three blind mice. No, what's it? Go on. I don't think I'll get that. Whole thing.
They want to show that cat the attitude of three blind mice.
Oh, excellent!
And
nice
there
one.
it is. Good stuff.
I like it. Good one. You stumped me with that one.
Yeah,
very good.
I'm surprised. I thought you'd get that straight out of the bag.
No, I knew, well, half of it, but not all of it. But yeah, good, brilliant song choice as well, or lyric choice. Okay, so here is my complete the lyric for this week. Okay, now, it always starts deadpan, so I'm not going to put my falsetto voice on it. The lyric is, I wasn't looking, but somehow you found me.
It's beautiful. What a great lyric. Yeah.
I've
got that one straight away.
I thought you might do.
In the bag, my old son.
I thought you might do. So, again, for everyone out there, any answers to quotes or complete the lyrics or guess some music cues, and send them in. Facebook page, website, etc.
Damn right. Good stuff.
Damn.
Okay,
Now,
so we've got our kind of final yet brand new shining gleaming section. Thank you to Michael Kerwin for kind of inspiring us to do this last time, which is Bond Celebrity Deathmatch. Now, I like it. I was just about to say we don't have a theme tune for this one yet, but you've just pulled one straight out of the bag. That's good.
I don't know what that was, but there we are.
Now we had a tweet not long after that episode from Mr. Antti Pessonen at ANTTIPESONEN. So give him a follow. Who said, for the deathmatch segment, both of you should just pick a character without knowing each other's picks. Imagine the scenarios. And I thought that was a bloody good idea. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Okay, I did have two characters in mind, so now I don't know which one to go for. Okay, okay, let's do that. Okay, I've got a character.
All right, let's hear your one first.
Sheriff J.W. Pepper, Louisiana State Police.
Versus Professor Dent.
Ooh, okay. Now, does Professor Dent have a tarantula?
Professor Dent has whatever he wants, I suppose, whatever they have at their disposal. So,
what about if he shoves some radioactive rocks up Sheriff Pepper's bum?
I'm just going to put this straight out there. I don't think J.W. Pepper has a chance. Like, I don't think that's even, because J.W. Pepper, he's either going to fall over his trousers are going to fall down, or his gun's not going to work, or whatever.
Okay. What about if he used his weapon? If this was like a computer game and everyone's got their special weapon, Sheriff J.W. Peppers would be spitting tobacco. So he could spit tobacco in Dent's eye, then nick his gun and shoot him, or his tarantula and stick it down his shirt.
Because let's face it, Dent is pretty easily led, isn't he? He's fooled by the 3-pillow trick pretty easily. So
he is.
Maybe he's not as bright as the name Professor Dent would imply. Yeah,
maybe. But then Sheriff doesn't hold much weight with Pepper either, does it? No, I think you're right. I think in this occasion it'll definitely have to be. I'm happy to go with Professor Dent as winner of Celebrity Deathmatch. What do you think?
Professor Dent wins. Ding. Ding.
I think what we're going to do is in the Celebrity Deathmatch, we'll continue this and we'll pick random characters, but we'll have to say how they fight each other, what their special weapon is. So in this we've got maybe either a tarantula or radioactive rocks or whatever, or spitting tobacco. Yeah. I think that'd be quite good. Okay,
I imagine there's going to be some quite interesting matchups. It's almost like live top trumps, isn't it? Like on top trumps. Yeah, that's what it is. So.
Cool.
So there we go.
Bond top trump.
Do you know what? Maybe we should do, because I've got my top trumps, my Bond top trumps from when we went to Bond Emotion.
Yeah,
so maybe what we do is we do a shuffle and we each draw a card and that's who faces off.
Yes, definitely. Okay, great. That's what we'll do.
Nice.
100%. Woohoo! I love it.
Bond Celebrity Deathmatch is just growing and developing each and every week. I like it. It's nice. It's good stuff.
Good. Cool.
Cool. So that just about rounds up episode 6. Good God, episode 36 of James Bond Radio.
36.
So what we're going to be talking about next time?
So next time, well, we're not going to say just yet, but I promise you I'll leave a nice little hint next Friday, which does kind of relate to the our film review this time as well. So it's a nice little thing. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to wait as well until
I've got to wait as well. Oh,
you have to wait as well. Yep.
Damn it.
And then we will.
So does this mean I don't even know what we're talking about next time?
Not until next Friday, no.
Oh, damn it. I'll be.
That's how we roll, man. This is how we roll.
There we go. All right, cool stuff. Well, thank you for tuning in to episode 36 of James Bond Radio, The Man with the Golden Gun. The year of Sir Roger continues, and it's only going to get better because we've got a beast of a movie next time for Roger, haven't we? When we get around
Can't wait
to reviewing that one. That's going to be good. So thanks for listening. I hope you're still as excited about the Spectre teaser trailer as I am. And I know you are as well.
I'm going to watch it again before I go to bed.
Well, there you go. I was just about to say, as soon as we sign off, that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to watch that trailer. I'm going to get my decent headphones on so I get the full sound experience, and I'm just going to spend some time with it and like it.
Do you know what I thought would be amazing? Actually, they spoke about it in the interview with Babs and Mickey G. Have you heard of this thing called Oculus Rift? It's like these 3D glasses that you put on. Imagine when it gets to the future, when we'll be watching James Bond trailers in 3D with these Oculus Rift glasses. They're basically almost like a headset that you put on, and you can turn around and see 360 degrees around. Imagine watching a Bond trailer. We're in the middle, and every way that you turn your head, you see like this trailer happening around you.
That does sound cool amazing. The next 10, 20 years in terms of technology is going to be mind-blowing with some of the stuff that it can achieve. So I mean, the movie watching experience is probably going to be completely different. We'll probably be in the movies itself, which is amazing. Yeah.
That would be so good. Yeah. But there we are. I've really enjoyed reviewing Man with the Golden Gun, actually. Yeah, it's great.
Me too.
Great podcast
Me too.
today.
Good stuff. And if you're one of those that previously kind of slated Man with the Golden Gun, go and watch it again. Give it some fresh eyes and see what you think, because I think it gets a bad rap for what it is. What I think is a good, solid, good old Bond movie. Yeah, entertaining Bond movie. Good stuff. All right then. So until next time, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright.
And James Bond Radio will return with an episode that I don't even know about, apparently.
It'll be podcast 37. I'll drop you the hint and you're going to love it, hopefully. All right. Speak to you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Welcome, James. It's been a long time. And finally, here we are.